Chapter 15. Never take the initiative to attack a mage tower that has an owner, and don't overestimate the moral limits of a mage, unless you want to be like me. F***CK, 12 chain traps, aren't you afraid of killing yourself? As expected, mags are all lunatics, great adventurer Jules. From a certain perspective, this maxim has become an iron rule among adventurers. Especially this great adventurer who is renowned for his flirtatiousness and ability to escape. In one of his expeditions to a floating city in another dimension, he was dismembered into 13 pieces by a great arcanist's chain traps. He used his life to add the final annotation to his maxim, making it even more convincing. Mags are creatures that pursue truth and knowledge throughout their lives. Their residences and mage towers are their research centers and treasure troves. Therefore, when their research results and lives were in danger, they would lower their moral limits and lower their moral integrity. Their houses and laboratories were full of all kinds of traps and mechanisms, and they were the kind of magic traps that even great thieves couldn't break. For example, if they opened a door, it was very likely that they would be randomly thrown into another world. The residences and mage towers of legend rank mags are no less threatening than a dragon's den. Even the weakest Lich is at least a legend rank. Thus, I am very curious. What kind of people would directly attack the residence of a Lich, especially when the Lich is obviously at home? Eliza. 2 small teams of intruders. One of them is attacking from the front and the other one is climbing over the wall. Based on their skills and the weapons they are carrying, they should be dark elves. 7 silver rank and 3 gold rank. It is quite a luxurious formation. Eliza reports as expected. However, what I want to ask isn't this. Why did it explode? Didn't I say that it would be enough to set up some safe and quiet alarm system on the outer perimeter? With such a loud explosion at night, the town security will be here soon. Based on the requirements of the Town Security Action Guide, Wu Mianzhi revised 6th edition, upon hearing a loud explosion, they are to form a small team to investigate the scene within 5 minutes. Coincidentally, I am in the central district of Sulphur Mountain City and it isn't too far from the Supreme Court. They should be here within 10 minutes at the very least. They will definitely use this opportunity to conduct a large search on us. Wouldn't those contraband items in our basement suffer? The town security only had the power to enforce the law on the spot. If they wanted to search someone's house, they had to wait for a search warrant from their superior. The superior unit of the town security was the Law Enforcement Hall, and the superior unit of the Law Enforcement Hall was the Supreme Court. But why would I sign a search warrant and let the town security search my house? Yes, from the start, I wasn't worried about those intruders. Instead, I was worried about those corrupt officials and unscrupulous merchants who didn't dare to report to the police when their illegal gains were stolen. If the town security were to make use of this opportunity to enter my old residence to investigate my background, I'm afraid that I would be thrown into Sulphur Mountain City's jail. Eliza's poker face remained the same even after hearing my complaint. Yeah, didn't you want a safe anti-theft system? According to your request, the periphery is only equipped with some engineering warning robots. Then why did it explode? Then, hearing the word safe, I suddenly understood. Safe? Don't tell me you're talking about safe goblin equipment on Gold Coin Street. Isn't that owned by the Bayard brothers? Of course, I know that shop. That safe goblin equipment shop had its business license revoked several times due to selling fake goods and explosives. Even now, it should still be operating without a license. Of course, the reason why they named the shop was to scam people. There were indeed people who bought the wrong safe goblin equipment, but after a few accidents, where else would they buy it from? This brand became a negative example. Of course, I thought that it was because you wanted to take care of those brothers of yours, so you specially requested me to purchase it from there. They aren't my brothers. Other than exploding, what else can their things do? I would be crazy to ask you to purchase it from there. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your meaning. The maid apologized sincerely, but from the slight curve at the corner of her lips, I could tell that this half-demon on the outside was secretly gleeful. She definitely did it on purpose. Fine, I give up. You have really put in a lot of effort to torment me. As long as you pay up, I can guarantee that your life will be smooth sailing from now on. H. Don't even think about it. Do you think that I don't know how you demons do things? Paying up means that the contract is over. You want to regain your freedom? Don't even think about it. While we were chatting idly, the two teams got closer and closer. However, I didn't put it to heart. Have you found out the identity of the intruders? If you still haven't, I will cut off your funds. H. Don't think that I don't know that you embezzled the funds to buy your own things. You are already so old, yet you still like those light clothes. H. A steel virgin in a lace skirt? You need my pocket money to buy a doll. Halfway through my sarcasm, I couldn't continue. The black mist of resentment that seemed to materialize kept reminding me that I would be in big trouble in the next few days. For example, the experiment log that I was writing halfway was suddenly blown away by a strong gale, the energy pool's supplies mysteriously turned into dog food, the grease used to clean and care bones suddenly turned into natural asphalt, the town security that I was doing my daily routine suddenly fell from the sky, the judge robe that I wore to work suddenly had some lace and cartoon patterns on it. Thinking about this, a sense of sorrow descended from the heavens. Just who is the master and who is the servant? Should I really consider paying her off and kicking her out? Boom. Yet another loud explosion interrupted my thoughts. What is this? Landmines. You actually bought this thing and placed it in the garden. I took the opportunity to make things difficult for her. Disobeying orders and violating our contract, I took this opportunity to deduct another 10 years of her salary. That position, it should be the gnome's automatic sprinkler T130. Boom. Over here. Lawnmower. No, it should be the entrance. The doorbell is loud, Lord. Tilting her head, the girl pretended to be natural. It is indeed loud enough. Fortunately, I never press the doorbell. No, to think that you would even buy a safe brand doorbell. Are you planning to murder me for my money? Boom. Boom. This time, it was a series of explosions. I knew that the floor of the entrance would have to be completely changed. No, judging from the intensity of the explosions, it might be time for the entrance of my old house to be changed. This is shoe cabinet. Eliza nodded her head as if she was in pain. Safe brand shoe cabinet XD137. It is said that it can automatically help the owner choose, brush and polish their shoes. I couldn't help but rejoice that I am a Lich, floating when I walk and never wearing shoes. But then, I felt that something was amiss. That's not right, I didn't even buy any shoes. Why did you buy a shoe cabinet? Ah, Lord, it is my negligence. Negligence in the murder plot? Your word games are getting better and better. That is because you have taught me well. Sigh, my evil points have increased again. Looks like another one died. Let's hope that there are still those invaders alive. At the very least, I hope that they can enter the next experimental area and help me test the magic traps I set. Arunaide is the second daughter of the third noble family of Morspblight City. Furthermore, she became a gold-rank High Priestess Ross before 200 years old, which means that she is deeply favored by the Spider Mother. As the rising star of Morspblight City, she is used to looking down on others. This time, she was instructed by her family to lead a team to Sulphur Mountain City to carry out a diplomatic mission. After careful consideration and investigation, she confirmed that it wasn't a scheme set up by one of the priestesses in her family to get a higher position. Thus, she gladly accepted this mission. Foolish, filthy two-legged bedbugs, despicable males, to dare to reject the goodwill of the Spider Queen. All right, do you not even have the right to become her slaves? Regret your decision in the flames of the abyss. Even as a diplomatic envoy, she is still like most of her kin, looking down on creatures other than female dark elves. Thus, the diplomatic trade negotiation had no chance of success from the start. But as dark elves, the spy mission that comes with it is just the beginning. All of you, go and carry out the mission that the Spider Queen has given me. Assassinate all of the people on this list if you can. As for those that you can't, gather intelligence. Thus, these few days, the town security has been receiving complaints about fellow dark elves appearing in the city, putting them in a passive position. That bunch of bitches who wear ridiculous uniforms and believe in the holy light. Just looking at those fools who betrayed the Spider Queen makes me feel nauseous. As long as we use this opportunity to get rid of them, the Spider Mother will definitely bestow more rewards to us. But to Arunaid, carrying out the family's spy mission is just a side mission. Her true goal is to make the subordinates sent by the family fight for her and fight for more benefits for her. But before she could find trouble with those weirdos who believe in the holy light, a partner from Chrome City was unexpectedly caught. Foolish male, he died because he was too stupid and weak. But if he were to say anything, it would be a huge problem. If Sulphur Mountain City were to get hold of this, the diplomatic team of Morseblight City would be expelled. Not only would it be embarrassing, the investigation and assassination mission would fail at the same time. Also, if our secret were to be discovered by the other party. Thinking about the torture the family inflicts on those who failed and the punishment the Spider Queen inflicts on the weak, turning them into a half-human half-spider monster, Arunaid couldn't help but tremble. But luckily, the wise Spider Mother is still watching over her. The mark she left on the male shows that he was brought out of the unconquerable volcano prison and brought to this strange old house. Even after hearing that this is the house of a Lich, she didn't back down. It is just another foolish male. Are you all virgins who have never enjoyed the service of the beautiful male mags in the family? To actually fear a mage? So what if he is a legend rank mage? We are dark elves, natural-born killers of magic. 2 of us are gold rank shadow dancers and a Spider Queen priestess. We can kill him in an instant. But at this moment, she doesn't have the calmness and confidence she had when she set off. Explosions, 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 doorbells explode, shoe pads explode, even pebbles by the roadside explode. What kind of place are we in? A gold rank shadow dancer who is as strong as her is lying on the cold floor. Her head has a hole in it and her skull has been blown away. Blood and brain matter are flowing out continuously. Cause of death: the powerful blood flower Arshidi actually died to an exploding clothes rack. Will anyone believe this? How am I going to explain to the family that we lost our strongest assassin just like that? In less than 3 minutes, only 3 out of the 2 teams of elites survived and we didn't even see our opponent. The survivors don't dare to advance anymore. When Arshidi was killed by the clothes rack, they don't even dare to retreat. They can only form a circle to guard against the explosion. But very soon, she doesn't have to worry anymore. Because in front of her, a floating figure appears from the darkness. Silver frost magic and black death magic are lingering around his skeleton. A purple soulfire is burning fiercely in his eye sockets. The voice formed by the vibrations of magic is cold and despairing. Greetings, test subject 17893, test subject 17894, test subject 17895. Welcome to my laboratory. UN, please remember your serial numbers. From today onwards, this will be your new name. This will also be your home for the rest of your lives. I hope that I can let you experience the warmth of a home. The Licker's voice is synthesized using magic. It is impossible to distinguish whether it's a man or a woman. There are no fluctuations of emotions, as though he is announcing a fact that everyone knows. The way he looks at her doesn't have the desire of a man or the jealousy of a woman. If there is anything, it is just an interest in her biological structure. Inexplicably, looking at the pair of cold eyes that are burning like willow wisps, Arunaid remembers the advice of her grandmother who hurt her the most. In the eyes of the world, we dark elves are evil, dangerous, and crazy. But in the face of true evil, we are just pitiful lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Grandmother, I finally understand your lamentation. But it is a pity that it is too late. There is no good or evil, no joy or hate. Just the gaze of an experimental animal. Is this true evil? Before losing consciousness, this is the final sigh of the rising star of Morseblight City, the second daughter of the third noble family, Arunaid. Chapter 16. It was easy for those brainless invaders to die. By the time they reached the entrance, only 3 of them were left. However, dealing with the aftermath became a problem for me. Thanks to Eliza, the explosion of those safe goblin machines resounded through the sky. In the quiet night, it could even be heard from 3 streets away. This was originally a legendary haunted house. Now, its infamy would probably spread far and wide. As I expected, after discovering that the location of the alarm was the residence of the legendary malignant Lich, the town security unhesitatingly woke up their sleeping sisters and sent out a luxurious formation of 30 elite knight. A legend rank holy knight leading a group of 30 silver rank and above holy knight. It was more than enough to challenge an adult dragon. It was obvious whether they were here to save someone or to take the opportunity to get rid of the malignant tumor that was affecting society. That bastard Lich, I can't find any evidence against him. This time, Yoren will lead Team A to rescue him while I will lead Team B in a surprise attack. Although I don't know why the Hall of Law Enforcement is always protecting him, I don't believe that this Lich doesn't have any contraband. If we succeed in taking him down this time, I will treat you to a drink as team leader. Oh, get rid of him. For the classic magazines in my storage room. They were all blown up. First we were hung by a rope in the sky, then we were spun until we vomited, and then we were knocked into a wall by the ghost horse. Sisters, it's time for revenge. For Momo's little bear. For my dowry. Night Squad charge. Attack. From these fierce slogans, it could be seen that a certain someone had done a lot of good deeds. His grudge was unusually deep. That brainless Lich didn't commit any major crimes, but in terms of the mental torture that his pranks caused to the town security, all the criminals added together probably didn't even make up half of it. If they were to take down the Lich this time, not only would they receive the team leader's reward, they would also be able to take revenge for the destruction of their campsite and past grudges. From the moment they set off, the Night Squad exploded with astonishing vigor and morale, advancing at a speed faster than the cavalry. When the town security arrived, they were surprised to find that their superior, the Iron Mask Steel Guard, Shueti, had already arrived. Furthermore, upon seeing the corpses on the ground, his face paled and he immediately threw the idea of finding trouble with the Lich to the back of his mind. Dark Elf? Why? The dead were all his own kind. Looking at the spider silk shadow hood that increased the movement of shadows, the thick leather cat boots that lowered the sound of footsteps, and the daggers and knives that glowed with a green light, even without considering their terrible reputation, it was obvious what they were here for. This is the standard equipment for assassination missions of the venomous spider fangs. This kind of assassin who has advanced twice requires the blessing of the Spider Queen. Only the big families of the Dark Elves can afford it. On the surface, just the Dark Elves would be considered a crime. Even in the underground world, many places would capture Dark Elves first and then interrogate them, and they would basically not capture the wrong person. Of course, if it were demons and devils, it would not be wrong to burn them first and then interrogate them. In this world, there are times when a race itself represents good and evil as well as the faction one is in. For Sulphur Mountain City to use the evil, chaotic Dark Elves as city guards, it is rather strange. If it was just a crime committed by a fellow clansman, Diana, the captain of the town security team, was used to it. She would just give the same punishment. However, the cries of alarm behind her made her heart stop. It's Carlos from the 7th clan, a candidate for the head of martial arts. He came with the diplomatic team from Morseblight City. Morseblight City? Just thinking of the name of her hometown makes Diana reveal a bitter smile. As a freak who believes in the holy light, they don't have any good memories in the Spider Queen's domain. What will come will come. The Spider Queen will never forget her enemies, and there is no such thing as forgiveness in the Dark Elf language. It is impossible for them to let us go. They are all Dark Elves. Even if they believe in the holy light, they wouldn't forget the underhanded methods. This is also one of the reasons why the Dark Elf Knight of Sulphur Mountain City is so hard to deal with for the criminals. Arunaid intends to get rid of these traitors of the Spider Queen, and the Dark Elf Knight has always been on guard against these diplomatic team from their hometown. At the very least, outside the inn where the diplomatic team is staying, there are scouts who have been taking turns to follow them. But apparently, they still underestimated these elites from their hometown. Apparently, they have managed to hide from the scouts they sent out. Perhaps, the recent serial murder case is also their doing. Yo, isn't this Captain Diana? Long time no see. This Lich lies through his teeth as usual. But now, the worried Diana doesn't have the mood to find trouble with him. She is still worried about how Morseblight City, which never suffers losses, will react when the case is brought to light. Will they blame this loss on her and her sisters? Even without considering the reaction of their hometown, the recent dark elves committing crimes in the city has already given the town security additional pressure. Now, these dark elves who raided the Licker's residence died at the scene, which is equivalent to being caught red-handed. But to her, this is already an expectation. What she is more worried about is that when the citizens know that the serial murder case is really dark elves, then based on her understanding of her people, it will be even harder to find evidence. If she is unable to solve the case, will the reputation of the group be affected? After all, a few big merchants have already been assassinated. Unable to solve the case even after so long, the town security is already under a lot of pressure. Diana, your luck is not bad this time. The case of the big merchant Shawan is actually solved so easily. Solved? The serial murder case against the merchants. Hearing this, the Dark Elf Knight jolts, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. You have evidence. Diana finds it hard to believe. Even though she has already guessed that the killers are from the diplomatic group, it is difficult for Dark Elves to leave behind evidence. As the enforcer of Sulphur Mountain City, especially when the other party is a diplomatic group, she can't act without evidence. Instead, she is restrained to the point where she can only monitor them from the outside. Yes, that fellow actually brought the assassination list with him. This time, the evidence is irrefutable. We can even use this opportunity to protest to Morseblight City. At this moment, the silent and tall metal block is actually so happy, it is really rare. But then again, as the person in charge of the Hall of Law Enforcement, the serial murder case has yet to be solved, so the pressure on him is even greater than her. Right, are the Bayar brothers still in the detention center? Tchem. Bayar. It's that pair of goblin explosion maniacs. Oh, that pair of green explosives. In order to save money, they actually used RDX, a type of explosive used to blow up mountains, as the power source for the construction equipment. How could that thing not explode? Even now, they are still insisting on their innocence, saying that it is a secret recipe passed down from their ancestors and is definitely safe and reliable. They are still unwilling to pay the bail and fines. We are still gathering evidence in preparation to sue them for manufacturing dangerous and shoddy goods. But it is a pity that we can't find any evidence. Their goods have all been blown to smithereens. We have evidence. Look at these dark elves and those shattered goblin equipment. Don't you find the cause of their death familiar? Shueti, you look so honest on the outside, but you are also a ruthless traitor. Hearing the agitated words of the Tauren enforcer, I can't help but draw a cross of prayer for the Bayar brothers in my heart. Then, without hesitation, I take a step forward and join the traitor camp. Lord, it is all the fault of those greedy goblins. I am a good citizen. A while ago, my maid bought some household goods from the safe goblin equipment and in the end, all of them exploded. Luckily, those kind people helped me block the disaster. Otherwise, the one who died would definitely be me. Lords, please redress my grievances. Dark elves are kind people. Wasn't the Lich already dead? Could he die again? Furthermore, it would be weird if a scourge like you could really die. Looking at the twitching eyes of the two enforcers, I can already guess what they are thinking. At the very least, the way they look at me is as though saying, do you think we are idiots or are you the idiot? This kind of distrust makes me unhappy, especially when I am restricted by the curse of the semigod equipment. Even though what I said is the truth. I didn't know about this matter. Those dark elves did help me block the disaster. Hey, if you don't take my words seriously, be careful that I file a complaint. Be careful that I secretly make things difficult for you and send you to the sulfur mine to be a supervisor. Cough cough, the destructive power of the Bayar brothers' equipment shouldn't be that great. Seeming to remember that this kind of gaze is rude, Diana turns her gaze elsewhere and starts to change the topic. Seeing that her superior is here, she knows that her plan to cause trouble for the Lich today has gone down the drain. However, she has also experienced the might of those explosives. The elites of Morseblight City wouldn't die from such a small-scale explosion. It's this. Shueti takes out some fragments from the wound of the corpse. Those are some fragments that are glowing with a silver light. High-purity sacred silver particles. They are embedded in the engine of the engineering equipment. Once the engine explodes, it is just like the dwarf's flintlock. The explosion provides the initial impetus and the real killer is these fragments. Looking at these sacred silver fragments, the corner of my mouth starts to twitch. Eliza, you sure are meticulous in your design. Looks like it really isn't your doing. Did you offend the Bayard brothers and they intend to murder you? This time, I don't need to say anything more. My suspicions are cleared. Sacred silver is a holy object that has received the blessings of the Order gods. It is extremely lethal against demons and undead. Just touching it would cause severe burns to me and it is a true damage that directly damages my soul. I am unable to use it. Is there a need to go so far? To this extent. I recall a period of time when Eliza's fingers were wrapped in bandages and she couldn't even move nimbly. It must be because she was loading these sacred silver fragments. Even if she is a half-demon, touching these things wouldn't feel good. In order to prevent her from randomly reviving, I should give her 2 years of salary first. Boom. Suddenly, after a series of explosions, a gigantic figure rushes out. Block him. Who is that? Ayo. How can they let a suspicious person escape at this moment? The town security surrounding him, only to hear the arrogant beastman roar. But with a flash of silver light, the gigantic blade rushes out like a dragon. Under the incredulous gazes of the crowd, their superior weapons are broken. How is this possible? Be careful, his weapon isn't right. Don't fight him head on. Clang clang clang. After a series of crisp sounds, under the gigantic blade, the thick armor of the town security is as fragile as paper. Wherever the blade goes, cries of agony and blood splatters. Following the momentum, the berserk half-beast actually rushes out of the encirclement. Aoku, how can this be? Of course, Diana recognizes the scarlet-eyed half-beast in front of her. This criminal is cunning and savage. Back then, the town security had to put in a lot of effort to capture him. No, how can he be so strong? Half-elf half-beast, a bronze-ranked assassin. Even though his eyes are scarlet red and his muscles are bulging, as if he has entered the special berserker state of the orcs and barbarians, a bronze-ranked warrior is actually able to run amok in front of a group of silver-ranked great knight and above. It's that blade. That blade is strange, don't let it touch you. Soon, everyone realized that something is wrong. Even though everyone's weapons are already very good, in front of that dragon-patterned blade, they often end up being split into two after 2 collisions. Get out of the way. With a good weapon, one can indeed challenge someone of a higher rank. However, Diana is a legendary. The difference between the two is too big. The Silver Avenger, which is also an epic holy sword, is not inferior to the Dragonslayer blade. Clang. The blade and the sword cross. Unfortunately, the Silver Avenger is directly split into 2. However, the webbing between Aoku's thumb and index finger, which is holding the blade, is split open. Then, he loses his defensive stance and is sent flying by a vicious kick from Diana. Diana used a lot of strength, obviously intending to keep him alive to interrogate him. However, Aoku was first tortured, then exhausted by berserk, then controlled by the blade. Finally, he was kicked in the chest by a legendary knight. Finally, he spits out 2 mouthfuls of blood on the ground and died just like that. When the Holy Knight realized that something is wrong and decided to use the once-a-day holy healing to save his life, Aoku is already breathless. I need an explanation. Why is Aoku, who should be in Sulphur Mountain City Prison, here? Why would the Dark Elf assassins attack here? The remaining half of the silver dagger was already pointed at me. It seemed that she wouldn't give up until she got an answer. But I smiled. Everything is as I expected. The fish still took the bait. After exchanging glances with Shueti, I remained silent. In the end, he stood out. It's like this. Actually, Roland has some secret relationship with our judicial system. He is a master of soul studies and torture. If we meet a stubborn prisoner, we would sometimes ask him for help. These explanations are actually the truth. At least, they are the truth that Shueti knows. Diana also vaguely feels that something is amiss. The judicial system is really too lenient with the Lich in front of us. Back then, when we were chasing him, we met Lord Wumianzi, and the arrival of the head of the Hall of Law Enforcement is also very strange. Yes, we are actually on the same side. I can't lie, what I said is definitely the truth. In reality, what I am saying is that I am Wumianzi himself. Yet, in front of the Holy Knight, they thought that I am saying that I have dealings with the judicial system. At this moment, just as I expected, Diana shows a look of realization. PH, no matter who is protecting you, don't let me catch you committing a crime, otherwise, no one will be able to save you. Retreat. Before they leave, they even threaten me in front of their superior. What a typical dumb knight. So innocent, so easy to make use of. Just as I smiled as I watched them leave with the corpses, a familiar voice rang in my ears. The confession that Oak just forced out has been verified by the experimental subject named Arunaid. I have already made 2 copies and sent them to Marguerite and Lord Adam through secret channels. However, Lord, is it worth it to spend so much effort to put on a show and even expose your relationship with the judicial system? Of course it is worth it. To be honest, I have underestimated that perverted killer. To think that he would have such an important secret in his hands. In order to calm those restless fellows temporarily, Oak has to die. Furthermore, he has to die in front of the world. This way, as long as the experimental subject really escapes, the news of the diplomatic group escaping in the middle of the night will seem real. After that, as long as the experimental subject obediently passes the fake news to them, they shouldn't suspect that the information has been leaked. Just to numb those fellows, you put on such a show. And even lost a myth-ranked god weapon? That dragon slayer? That is a scam. That 1% chance of going berserk actually increases the wielder's strength by 1% every second. That means that after 2 minutes, they will go berserk to the point where they won't recognize anyone. Isn't this a scam? It is good to give it away. Furthermore, I remember that there is someone in the town security who can use this blade. Aren't the town security my arms? Isn't their strength my strength? Why do I feel that you are taking pity on the fairer sex and protecting them, cutting off the clues that they are pursuing so as to prevent them from being implicated too deeply and becoming cannon fodder? Ha, your imagination sure is rich. I chuckle and look up at the sky. There is no such thing. This matter involves the Underground City Lords Alliance and the malevolent elemental god. It also involves the traitors of the Parliament. Their fighting strength is not bad, but some things require brains. With such low political ability, they are worse than cannon fodder if they are implicated. It wasn't easy to create a holy light knight group. It would be a pity to sacrifice them for nothing. I still intend to make them work for me for a few more years. Saying that, I became inexplicably excited. The ancient malevolent god and the underground autarchs finally have an enemy that is worth going all out against. Perhaps, this is the sign of the arrival of a new era. Chapter 17. Whispers of the Demons is the name of the first prelude to Aish's 7 Purgatories. This upcoming future was also the prelude to the new eternal war. With the help of the demons, the ancient elemental gods who had participated in the ancient war of gods and were under the command of the goddess of chaos broke free from their seals one by one, bringing endless calamities to the continent. Following the revival of the elemental gods, fire elemental warlords, wind elemental lords, water elemental monarchs and other elemental monsters gradually became the first boss-level opponents that the players met. At the same time, the ambitious and idealistic who smelled the arrival of a new order started to stir. Among them, the most dangerous ones are the believers of the evil gods who wish to establish their own country and welcome the descent of the evil gods, the ambitious underground city lords who plan to return to the surface, and the undead empire that thirsts for slaughter and destruction. Of course, just as the name of the prelude suggests, these troublesome matters have the shadow of the demons behind them. As the elemental gods descend one after another, their avatars descend and the elemental tide descends, the might of the elemental magic becomes stronger and the advancement of experts becomes easier. The Aishi continent will eventually encounter the demon wave era where liches roam the land and legends are as common as dogs. However, in the elemental tide, The connection between the Ashi continent and the other world becomes more precise. Traveling to the other world becomes easier and visitors from the other world become more frequent. When the younger generation on the surface is flourishing, when the various countries are excited about their future and even have the ambition to expand, they didn't expect that this is also the plot of the demons and the evil gods of chaos. The arrival of the demon wave broke the door between the worlds and opened the door to the bottomless abyss. A large number of demons enter the mortal world and their frontline battle is a new wave of undead calamity. The alliance of the underground city lords to invade the surface should have been one of the contents of the next expansion pack Vulture of War, which is around 10 years later. It is still a little early, but after thinking about it for a while, it seems to be expected. After all, the underground world is still in a mess. Even if the underground autarchs want to unite the arrogant underground city lords, they need time. At this moment, it is time to eliminate the dissidents and consolidate their military strength. On the other hand, the Sulphur Mountain city that we are in is obviously blocking their path. Well, perhaps I shouldn't use human beings to describe these underground autarchs. It is said that she is the daughter of the Spider Queen, the High Priestess Kodja. Rose. She united all the Dark Elves, and their target is the Surface Elves, Dragon Empress Molly, the leader of both the Red and Black Dragons, the publicly acknowledged King of Dragons in the 7 Dragon Cities. Their goal is to return to the surface. Of course, if they can take revenge on the dragon god Bahamut who banished them, that would be even better. Einsterner Edua, Dark Wizard, race is barely human. Target unknown, strength unknown, but he has more than 50 underground cities under his command. If we only talk about conventional troops, he is not inferior to any human empire. His military prowess is outstanding, and he will be the future supreme leader of the underground allied forces. Sho Nuyar, a Manticore lion beastman, the tribal chief of the Nuyar tribe. He was elected by over 100 underground beastman tribes. Although the beastman tribes are very chaotic, the beastman's innate talent in battle is astonishing. The underground beastman's innate talent is a lot stronger than the surface beastman's. If we only look at the number of experts, they can be said to be inferior to dogs, and legends are everywhere. Their goal is actually not to take revenge on the surface races, but to return to the beastman's homeland, the legendary Bianluya Plains. But now, that place is the territory and granary of the powerful human San Antonio Empire. That is to say, they still have to fight, and it is a decisive battle on the level of extermination. The strength of these 4 underground city lords is obviously a level higher than the other city lords, that's why they are called overlords. However, everyone knows the story of 1 monk having water to drink, 2 monks carrying water to drink, and 3 monks having no water to drink. If there was only one overlord, they would have long unified the underground world and sent their troops to the surface. But now, there are 4 underground overlords. Under the control of all 4 sides, the underground world is even more chaotic. This time, it was just like the history recorded in the walkthrough. Seeming to have smelled the opportunity of a new era, the Dark Magus Einsterner and the underground beast Emperor Sho first formed an allied army, planning to invite Kaja and Molly. With a large amount of benefits, they formed an underground alliance, gathering close to 40% of the underground city lords in the underground world, forming the largest allied army in history. However, I know that things aren't that simple. From the history obtained from the walkthrough, the Beast Men and the Dark Magus have a third party interfering behind the scenes. Behind the Dark Magus is the cunning and fickle devil, while the Beast Men are the chaotic and bloodthirsty demons. The 2 thieves are trying to interfere from the same pocket. After that, both sides fall out, which is the only possibility for this powerful allied army to fail. Of course, the Spider Queen Rose and the Dark Dragon aren't kind people. They have their own plans. What a headache, this isn't a battle of numbers anymore. The formation of the Underground Alliance and the formation of the Allied Army should be something that happened recently. I have the heart to change it, but it is obvious that I am powerless. The Underground Allied Army's counterattack on the surface is already a foregone conclusion. Those foolish pigs on the surface can enjoy the warm sunlight and clean night wind without doing anything. On the other hand, if we don't do anything, regardless of whether it is day or night, we can only rely on the cold light of the glowing moss, drink the sulfur-smelling underground water, be on tenterhooks to avoid earthquakes and beast hordes. We can't tell the difference between day and night, living a life worse than pigs and dogs. Tell me, citizens of the underground, do you intend for your descendants to live this hellish life? We, the exiled citizens, on what basis are we inferior? Why do we have to bear the sins of our ancestors? Everyone has the right to live under the sun, we just want to take back what we deserve. 3 years ago, when this extremely provocative slogan was shouted out by Ain Sterner, it quickly spread throughout the entire underground world. Now, the underground world's counterattack on the surface and enjoying true sunlight is the hope of all life. It is destined to become a historical trend. There is no sun in the underground world, but there is quite a bit of glowing moss at the top of the rocks, providing some light. Even I don't intend to try to stop it. The underground alliance formed by countless underground cities cannot be stopped, but the betrayal within Sulphur Mountain City cannot be spared. Councillor Wendy, Councillor Khan. These foolish councillors actually intend to skip the current administrative department of Sulphur Mountain City and form a new alliance with the other underground cities to join the future Surface Crusade. As the current city lord of Sulphur Mountain City, Adam is a hero of the surface. Although I don't know why he chose to stay here for over 100 years, from the start, the big shots from the surface, Hero Adam and Saint Marguerite, were viewed as enemies of the Underground Alliance. As the Alliance progressed, the Dark Elves' Morseblight City, the Grey Dwarfs and the Underground Beastmen's Chrome City, the former unhesitatingly submitted to the subordinates of the Spider Queen's High Priestess Kaya while the latter submitted to the Beastman's Sovereign Show. Sulphur Mountain City has always been against war, not to mention a world war with the surface. From the start, Sulphur Mountain City has become a thorn in the eyes of the Alliance. But not everyone has no ambition. At least, quite a few big shots in Sulphur Mountain City are tempted by the territory on the surface. Sulphur Mountain City doesn't have nobles, but the surface and other underground cities do. Thus, when the two cities tried to pressure those foolish councillors and used the territory on the surface as a lure, a portion of the people with the same interests have already formed a party, forming the so-called Alliance faction. Coincidentally, Adam is planning to hand over the position of the City Lord, giving them a great opportunity. This time, the diplomatic mission to Sulphur Mountain City wasn't treated seriously by the public, but in the dark, they were helping those councillors to rise to power. Those merchants who were assassinated, other than a few unlucky fellows who were used as a cover, most of them had the identity of a councillor. As the obstacles died one by one, the Alliance faction was slowly rising to power. No one would be foolish enough to clash head-on with the semigod Adam. They were waiting and accumulating their strength. As long as there is the slightest flaw in Sulphur Mountain City's position change, it would be time for them to incite the people to rise to power. The Dark Elf Town security might be very effective in dealing with criminals, but due to their birth, they were doubted by a portion of the citizens. If they were to be implicated in such a plot, if the Alliance faction were to discover them and treat them as obstacles, they would easily become cannon fodder. Just thinking about it for a moment, I can think of a dozen ways to ruin and kill them. For example, inciting the public to accuse them of framing the diplomatic mission and that the real serial killer is one of their own, forcing them to hand over the real culprit. Inciting opposition, scolding them for stealing and desecrating the holy light, initiating a trial by the church to force them to their deaths. If they were to retaliate with force, I should restrain my evil intentions. Although those councillors aren't as smart as me, they are definitely experts in internal strife. Even if I can't think of a dozen, 1 or 2 shouldn't be a problem. The reason why I chose to keep them out of this matter isn't because of what Eliza said, but because I instinctively want to protect them. Yes, I just want to protect them. Who likes those foolish women who keep hindering my work? I don't care if they die. But now, they are the subordinates of my subordinates. If they are alive, they are part of Sulphur Mountain City's legal system. If they die, they are the ghosts, undead, of me, Lord Yongye. If they were to die for no reason and unjustly, wouldn't it be embarrassing for me? Hearing the information that Eliza dug out from Oka's mouth, it seems that all the problems are solved. However, I realized that there are some incongruous points. Why are they so fixated on Sulphur Mountain City? This city can't even be considered as a fraction of the entire underground world. I am not like those arrogant counselors who think that the world can't survive without me. Even without Sulphur Mountain City's alliance, the Underground Alliance still has the strength to sweep across the surface. Oka heard that there seems to be a powerful demon sealed here, and the Dragon Empress seems to be very interested in it. She even offered a high bounty for it, so he decided to come here to try his luck. Nonsense, I have lived here for more than 100 years. From the very start, this was just a barren land. What kind of powerful demon is sealed here? Suddenly, I thought of something and I got stuck. Powerful demon? Seal? It can't be such a coincidence, right? Could it be that she is referring to me, Lord Youngye? That can't be, I don't think I have leaked anything here. My true identity is only known to Adam, Marguerite, and Little Red. They aren't gossipy people. No, someone might be gossipy. That fellow Adam is trying to scam me again. Pushing up her gold-rimmed spectacles, Eliza nods her head as though she is in pain. However, I can see that she is secretly laughing. More than a year ago, there was a time when the councillors invited the city lord to a banquet. Then, during the banquet, the strongest beastman boning wine. The city lord, who had too much to drink, spent 3 hours talking about how he defeated the powerful demon king and sealed him in the depths of hell. Although he didn't say which demon king it was and most of the councillors in the banquet treated it as a joke, it was obvious that someone took it seriously. Is it Lord Youngye? She seems to be muttering to herself, but it is also a question. It depends on whether someone is willing to answer. It isn't Lord Youngye. Based on the analysis of the Dragon Empress, a semigod undead lord isn't someone Adam could deal with back then, needless to say, seal him. It is possible that the other party is tired of fighting and has left this plane. The new test subject was very smart and took the initiative to share information that I don't know about. If it is really Lord Youngye who is sealed here, then he isn't someone we can control. In the eyes of any living person, he belongs to the category of danger that we mustn't release from the start. Looking for Lord Youngye is just a rumor used to create false information. Our true target is the ancient fire elemental god, Arolawise. The lie detection ring proves that this is the truth. Thinking about the characteristics of the fire elemental, I come to a realization. This is Sulphur Mountain City, and behind it is the endless Sulphur Mountain range. Sulphur is one of the easiest things to find around the crater of a volcano. For such a large area of sulphur mine, it is obvious that it isn't natural. In that so-called game, all of the ancient elemental gods were defeated and chased away after a long period of time. The only exception is the fire elemental god. Now that I think about it, it isn't that the other party didn't descend, but that the fire elemental god was in the underground world from the start. What other place is more suitable for the fire elemental to live than the Sulphur Mountain range and the crater of a volcano? Underground? In the sulphur mine? Yes, through some operations, the councillors of the Alliance faction have already sold a portion of the mining rights to the mine to us. Our grey dwarf miners have already found some ruins in the mining area. It is highly possible that it is the altar that leads to the location of the elemental god. Now, there are 2 things stopping us. Firstly, in order to prevent the news from leaking, we must obtain the mining rights of the entire mining area. Those who insist on not selling are also on the assassination list. Secondly, the Guardian. The Dragon Empress guessed that Adam built Sulphur Mountain City here to guard Arolawise. As long as the seal is touched, the Guardian will definitely sense it. However, the semigod Adam is someone that even the Dragon Empress might not be able to defeat. I hold my forehead, wanting to cry but no tears come out. Adam, you really are a huge scam. 130 years ago, you scammed me and now you are scamming me again. If it wasn't for your bragging, how would you have become the guardian of the elemental god? How would this city be a thorn in the eyes of others, and how would I be dragged into it? Can't you control that big mouth of yours? You are causing trouble for me every day. If this place really becomes the sealed grounds of the elemental god, the demons might even make a move personally. Then, I really have to make some preparations. Closing my eyes in deep thought, many thoughts flashing in my mind. Just as I was about to vaguely think of something, suddenly, the door creaks and a familiar voice makes me instinctively lower my body and scurry away like a rat. However, I was still a step too late. Hey, Uncle Bones. Long time no see, and is here to look for you to play. Before I fly out of the window, my last thought is the spinning world in front of me, that pink color and the uncontrollable random thoughts. She has really grown. In the past, I could only fly 30 meters high. Now, I can see the 300-meter tall rock ceiling and glowing moss. Hey, Mrs. Vulture, are you here to look for food? The weather today is really good. Even though I am flying in the sky as usual, unexpectedly, I am not angry at all. The reason? While I am flying in midair, the scene from just now is still replaying in my mind, as well as the source of my random thoughts. Cough, pink color. It is to remind her that girls shouldn't kick people so casually, otherwise, they might easily expose themselves. Girls are really mysterious. A girl changes 18 times between womanhood and womanhood. To think that she actually turned from a naughty child to a tall and beautiful beauty in an instant. Yes, although I haven't seen her for 7 to 8 years, in that instant, I can see clearly that the naughty child who was originally a dry naughty child has turned into a cute and beautiful young lady. Full buttocks and breasts, full of vitality, a youthful and innocent face, a good figure and a good personality. She is exactly my type. Why not, after reviving, consider fulfilling the marriage promise? However, I have already rejected Adam so many times. To go back on my words now, isn't that too lacking in moral integrity? Do I even have such a thing as moral integrity? Seems like I don't. Very quickly, I made up my mind to test whether and still remembers the Uncle Bones who doted on her the most and always played with her, and that marriage that was exchanged for a lollipop. But just as I was thinking about it, a group of uninvited guests appeared. Go away, smelly bird. I am not a prey, I am a scary lick. I am very scary, be careful that I bite you. A group of scavenging vultures surround me. Bones seem to be their food too. Smelly bird, go away. I am really going to bite you. The touch of a lick is very scary, and a lick with only a skull is also very strong. Looks like before I consider fulfilling the marriage promise, I should first get her to change this bad habit of hers and teach her what she can kick and what she can't. Chapter 18. In the middle of the sulphurous mountain range, there is a gigantic cave, and a gigantic beast seems to be taking a nap. Elegant, beautiful, gigantic, fierce. These contradictory words perfectly blended together in front of this giant beast that was as big as a small mountain. Its scales that were as sharp as blades reflected the flowing light of the sun, and its shining silver claws were as big as flagpoles. Its existence itself is the embodiment of majesty. Its breath can bring about a shocking storm and lightning. Under the gaze of those demonic dragon eyes, life will feel its end. At this moment, as the king, it squints its eyes as though it is staring at something. Then, it suddenly lets out a shocking roar. Ayo, ayo. Following the thunderous roar of the gigantic beast, the entire mountain range shakes. Countless magical beasts flee upon hearing the roar. The ferocious rotting demon vultures scatter in all directions like frightened sparrows. When the true master of this mountain range, the top of the food chain, ancient red dragon Mesus, roars in anger, there is no life that wouldn't feel fear. Even if the content of the roar makes one speechless, Arth, to think that you would have such a day. What a joke. The gigantic beast actually hugs its stomach and rolls on the ground. The entire cave starts to shake violently as though it could collapse at any moment. Shut up, little red. Yes, the one in front of her is me, Lick Roland Mist. But at this moment, my condition isn't too good. Isn't this our wisest Lord Roland? What happened to your body? Why is there only a head left? In front of the gigantic beast, there is a skull that isn't even the size of a scale. Yep, that's me. Mitch, I really don't want to bother with her, but the manticore on the side is reporting its harvest to its master. Awoo, awoo. The manticore's weird voice is mixed with dragon language. I can't really understand it, but Mesus is getting more and more interested. Oh, you said that he was first fought over by a group of vultures, then the vultures were shot down by the kobolds, then the kobolds were robbed by the griffins. Finally, after seeing everything, you guys robbed the griffins and found him familiar, so you gave him to me to enjoy. Roland, what an intense adventure. I will share it with Adam and the others. I ignored this stupid dragon and maintained my silence. Yes, the skull of a Lich isn't easy to digest. Just like that, I, who was left with only a skull, enjoyed the food chain of the Sulphur Mountain range. I was sent up level by level and finally, I reached the top of the food chain, unveils. Of course, I have ways to use my mana to recover it directly, but as long as I wait until 12, my skeleton incarnation would be able to reconstruct itself under the effects of a spell. Thus, I didn't intend to waste my mana to forcefully reconstruct it. In the end, I enjoyed the food chain of Sulphur Mountain City. It's too early for you to celebrate. Think about it carefully. What other reason could make me like this? The Crimson Dragon supported her chin with her huge claw and looked like a human in deep thought. At first, she was calm and indifferent, but soon, she thought of a possibility. Her body tilted and her chin hit the ground hard, but she couldn't care less about the pain. It can't be, could it be that that person is back? I nodded with a heavy heart. Yes, she's back. Moreover, it's an upgraded version. Her mobility has increased tremendously. Look at how high I flew this time. Before I could finish my sentence, the enormous dragon had already roared. Quick, quick. Put up a no-battle sign at the foot of the mountain, say that I went out to visit a friend. Right, where's the key to the treasury? Throw it into the crater of the volcano, don't let that rascal enter my treasury. Forget it, I'm really going out. That day, the enormous dragon recalled the terror of being dominated by that fellow. After an afternoon nap, the humiliation of her proud dragon scales being painted with children's graffiti, the fear of her treasury being flooded with water, the smell of fresh meat mixed with sulfur and magma, the humiliation of the shiny gold coins being exchanged for worthless glass. Meow, I'm not like those stupid lizards. How can a shiny glass be exchanged for gold coins? Don't even think about it. Woo-woo, I just wanted to make Auntie Little Red happy. Everyone says that Auntie Little Red likes shiny things. Woo-woo, and was wrong, don't hate Anne at that time, facing the crying little girl, facing the resentment of her parents, Marguerite and Adam, facing my "you made a little girl cry again" mockery. Even the enormous dragon couldn't maintain her dignity and could only try to please and instead. UN, big sister dragon likes Anne the most, and, don't cry. Be good Anne, Auntie will give you candy to eat. No, this is a god equipment, it's very valuable, I'll give it to you. You don't like it? Then try this. This is the blessed wing armor, you can wear it when you grow up. Using those precious books of mine that were reduced to graffiti as proof, the scariest thing about Rascal isn't their ability to cause trouble, it's that after they cause trouble, you still have to clean up the mess. If you reprimand them a little too harshly and make them cry, you still have to pay the price to make them happy. That time, Einmesis gave me a god equipment, a set of myth-ranked armor from her collection, and 2 lollipops. Actually, I felt that all of that had been unnecessary. 2 lollipops would have been more than enough. Of course, I wouldn't remind this foolish dragon of that. At this moment, hearing that Anne has returned, recalling the tragedy of the past, even the ancient red dragon known as Veren's Calamity was scared out of her wits. The attacking rascal, even the enormous dragon had to kneel before it. Don't panic, she is still in Sulphur Mountain City. When she goes up the mountain, I will inform you. But, since we met, there are some things I want to discuss with you. Discuss what? I need to quickly move my treasury. I'm very busy. How about talking about your mother? Even though it was an impolite question, Little Red calmed down. What do you mean? That self-proclaimed Dragon Queen Molly? What happened to her? Yes, the ancient red dragon Einmesis is the unfilial daughter of the Dragon Queen Molly, the rebellious princess who was chased out of the underground dragons. Just like every young girl who runs away from home during her rebellious period, she has a stomach full of grievances against her mother and her tribesmen. She has her eyes on Sulphur Mountain City and perhaps, the fire origin god sealed beneath it. Don't tell me that you don't know that there is a malevolent god sealed beneath it. I was wondering why I was sleeping so comfortably, so warm, as though I was sleeping in a hot pit. So, there really is a furnace hidden beneath the ground. Alright, red dragons like the fire elementals like active volcanoes. To her, if the fire elemental god is sealed beneath the mountain, it is just a comfortable source of warmth. So, it is really a little troublesome now. Looks like those fellows in the underground city will form an alliance sooner or later, and the seal beneath your house has become their target. You don't want to wake up to find your house in ruins and even your treasury has been ransacked by others, right? Furthermore, and is about to take over Adam's position. Although she is indeed a rascal, she is still a rascal that we raised together. Now that those fellows below are getting restless, are you willing to see our child being bullied? Hearing that, a blood-red ferocious glint flashes across the dragon's eyes. Along with the killing intent, comes a fearsome might. The physical might of the dragon descends and the powerful quasi-legend manticore is affected by it, scaring it into a ball. However, I, who bears the brunt of it, smiles. I know that even though Little Red is an otaku, she isn't a fool. Her informants have definitely given her a lot of information. Even though her mouth is tough, the one who dotes on the most is this dragon lass, who has long passed the age of marriage but still hasn't married yet. She has long treated and as half a daughter. Otherwise, how would the greedy and selfish red dragons be willing to give her such a precious protective god equipment? Now that I mention that Anne is going to be bullied, the killing intent is naturally directed towards those fools in Sulphur Mountain City who think that they can ascend to the heavens. Stop talking nonsense. Just say whatever schemes you have in mind. Just like usual, you use your brain and I use my hands to beat them up. Hearing this, I smile gleefully. I know that since Little Red is willing to be my fighter, I have already achieved more than half of my goal for coming here today. As for the rest, I want you to put on a show, a good show of an evil dragon attacking the city. The setup is done, what's left is my mission. Chapter 19. Kaye. Dang. 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 Along with the ringing of Sulphur Mountain City's Big Ben, it is time for lunch at noon. When the recovery magic is activated, under a wave of dizziness, I return to the house where my body is at. When my head returns to my body and my consciousness returns to my house, the first thing I do is to observe my body 1, 2, 3. 24. That's weird, did the brat change his nature? Not a single rib is missing. Just as I was surprised that I didn't have a single rib and was about to count the number of toes on my foot, a dissatisfied and coquettish grumble sounded from behind me. Uncle Bones, I have grown up. I won't touch the body parts of a man. These words aren't wrong, but why do I feel uncomfortable hearing it? Turning my head around, the red-haired young lady is glaring at me. Just like what I saw in that glance, the originally dry brat has turned into a slender and elegant young lady. Due to the special training method of the Fire Phoenix bloodline, her fiery red hair, which was similar to Adam's, fluttered in the wind. Her long and slender legs were as straight as a compass, and her oval face with baby fat had turned into a sharp oval face. The only thing that didn't change was her pure and innocent eyes, as well as the mole under her right eye, which gave her a bit of femininity. Ayo, humans really grow fast. Just yesterday, you were still a brat shouting Kumar Kumar, and today, you have already turned into a good woman. Looking at my head turning around, Anne's face is initially solemn, but after a moment of astonishment, she bursts into laughter. Oh no, my image. Expressionlessly, I tear off the seal on my head and silently take the cloth that Eliza passes to me to wipe off the turtle on my skull. Why? You can't understand? It's just that when I was waiting for the recall magic, I played 2 rounds of mahjong with Little Red and accidentally lost 2 rounds. I didn't lose. Little Red is even worse off than me. Her entire body is filled with drawings and she doesn't even need any makeup to disguise herself as a black dragon. As for why they didn't use gold coins or money as the wager and just stuck notes on each other and drew turtles, it's because both of us are experts in magic and we don't have any bottom line. If we really bring a wager, then this game that is purely meant to kill time will definitely turn into a cheating competition. Or, what? A mahjong girl with superpowers? Alright, that seemed to be subtly hinting at something. In that case, he would be the genius magical mahjong player. Sigh, why is it so hard to play mahjong these days? And was covering her mouth as she giggled. I knew that I looked terrible right now. After all, it was rare to see a Lich with a turtle drawn on his head. The Drakens who were called in to fight with us were also looking at us in astonishment. Is it strange? Can't the evil Lich and the destructive red dragon just sit down and play mahjong to kill time? Do we have to discuss how to destroy the world whenever we get together? No, no. The red-haired girl shook her head. After going out for a walk, the world has changed. After coming back, those people who used to be very familiar with me have become very strange. They always want and to do this and to do that. They're weird and don't say anything. Looking at those fake smiles, and has been suppressing her anxiety for the past few days. But now, seeing that Aunt Little Red and Uncle Bones are still the same, it's really great. And smiles. Her smile carried an indescribable nostalgia and satisfaction. Looks like this cultivation trip has made this little princess of Sulphur Mountain City mature quite a bit. Pa. But, I unknowingly knocked the other party's head with my bone. How old are you? Don't make yourself sound like an old man. Lamenting about life and reminiscing about the past, that's the business of the elderly. I'm still young, so it's fine if you call me uncle, but if you call me Little Red. And Nose. When we meet Aunt Little Red, and we'll call her sister Little Red. Otherwise, when there's no one around, Aunt Little Red will hide in the cliff and cry secretly. Her cries will be so loud that even the bottom of the mountain can hear it. How could she not know? How embarrassing. That's more like it. Overage unmarried girls are more sensitive. We should sympathize with them, understand them and love them. If we meet Marguerite, how should we call her? Sister Marguerite. And Nose. Right, remember to call her in front of Adam. I snigger as I say. And is Adam's disciple and at the same time, his adopted daughter. Furthermore, Marguerite gave and her own surname, Raven, which, without a doubt, expresses her wishes. However, it's a pity that, forget about calling her mother, and always calls her sister. This makes Marguerite, who is a generation older than Adam, very vexed. Of course, it is my duty to make her vexed a little more. Remember, you must praise Marguerite for being young and beautiful, saying that she isn't compatible with that Uncle Adam. The prerequisite for a child's words to carry no harm is that no one is instigating it. Lord, Teacher Marguerite left a message. If you continue to misguide Anne, she will use the name of the Conduct Institute to deduct the funds that are supposed to be your work expenses, but in reality, you are using them to buy the out-of-print ancient book. I forgot that I have a spy of Marguerite by my side. Although I have always been curious as to how a saint and a half-demon could get along, my head maid, Eliza, is indeed Marguerite's nominal disciple. Short hair, gold-rimmed spectacles, expressionless venomous tongue, these are all Marguerite's characteristics. Even the way she intentionally stands at a high place, holding the gold-rimmed spectacles with her right hand and looking down on me coldly, looks so similar to her. I can't help but sigh. Can you not imitate Marguerite so much? Recently, you are becoming more and more like that old virgin. Be careful that you won't be able to get married. It is my honor to be able to be close to teacher. Then, I will pass on your evaluation of teacher to her. Just wait for your funds to be cut. Then, I will first cut the funds of your spectator so that your subordinates can force you to pay. Do as you wish. Then, I will embezzle the living expenses of the mansion. Do you want to have a taste of the days when water and fire suddenly cut off? Do you want to have all the candles suddenly extinguished in the middle of the night? Do you want to have the toilet suddenly explode? Hey, this has nothing to do with funds. You evil maid who tries to murder me for money, you black-hearted boss who owes money to the farmers, Fut. Looking at the two of us bickering, the excited and bursts into laughter. Big Sister Eliza is still the same as before, that is great. Big Sister Eliza and Uncle Bones' relationship is still so good, it really makes one envious. Our relationship isn't good. This time, Eliza and I spoke at the same time, and played around in the old mansion for a while before leaving to return home. As the future city lord, and having just finished her travels, she has countless lessons to catch up on. Standing by the window, looking at the naughty brat who used to be bouncing around downstairs, walking like a lady now, I can't help but sigh. She really changed a lot. Yes, humans are indeed the most fickle creatures. Anne's change and growth is so great that it has already exceeded my expectations. Anne. Laid race, human, job, LV60 warrior LV18 sword saint, Overall evaluation, LV78, Gold Pinnacle, half step into legend. Yes, I am not talking about personality and figure, but the most basic strength. The current Anne, if I don't use my trump card, I might not even be able to defeat her. Iron bloodline, bronze body, silver dignity. To a normal person, every tier is an obstacle that they will find hard to overcome in their entire life. If a person reaches LV60 Silver Pinnacle and wants to take another step forward, they will have to attempt to break through to a high-tier job. This is already the dividing line between a mortal and a hero. If one were to successfully break through and obtain a high-tier job, entering the Golden Will stage, they would become a master in the eyes of the world. This also means that in the eyes of the world, gold rank experts all look like elders. And is only 17 years old. To be able to reach silver rank at this age, she is already a genius in the eyes of the world. As for Gold Pinnacle, Eliza is also at Gold Pinnacle, but with the guidance of me and Marguerite, two semigod mags, she still spent more than 100 years. The reason why it is called Golden Will is because gold rank experts are already able to use their will to change the truth of the world, surpassing the limits of mortals. Back then, when I was hailed as the Child of Light, I was only 14 years old when I reached gold rank. Furthermore, with the support of the Holy Knight, I had the advantage of being able to advance easily. Even though I was still far from Gold Pinnacle, I was already hailed as a genius that only appears once every 300 years in the Holy Church. Should I sigh, as expected of the superhero who killed me in the original history? If I was a genius that only appears once every 300 years back then, shouldn't be hailed as a genius that only appears once every 500 years. For some reason, I thought of another man who was hailed as a genius and a hero. Back then, the red-haired him was also standing in front of me with a silly look on his face. Big brother, your swordsmanship is really amazing. Can you teach me? My name is Adam, I came from White Rock Village. My goal is to become a hero, then marry Lisa as my wife, then go back to the village to show off to everyone. Right, I also want to be a rich man, just like that old Peter next door who can collect rent without doing any work, and smoke a pipe while watching others work. More than 100 years have passed, from a young man in the village, he has completed the first half of his heroic dream, but it is a pity that he is destined to be unable to complete the second half. That silly young man from back then still has a silly look on his face, but just a few days ago, he told me that he has lived long enough, that he misses home, and that he wants to die. It is a pity, Adam, I shake my head. After spending so many years with him, I know that his determination is unwavering. At this moment, I throw away all unnecessary emotions and focus my attention on rational thinking. And speed of growth is too fast, inconceivably fast. Even with the help of the elemental tide, it is still impossible for it to be this fast. No, back then, Adam was also ridiculously strong. It should be the unique characteristic of their inheritance. A life like the phoenix will only become stronger when it is close to death, and before it dies, it will burn itself to pass on its power and experience to the next generation, allowing the next generation to grow by leaps and bounds. Does that mean that Adam's time is almost up? Thinking about it, it is only natural. That fellow wouldn't think of asking me for help until the very end. For some reason, I recall 130 years ago, the days when we adventured together. Back then, Adam was still an idiot, Marguerite was a rookie mage, Lisa was a natural thief who couldn't even be compared to a rookie, and Little Red was the mascot and hidden boss of the party. Rather than saying that I was the party leader, it would be better to say that I am a nanny who brought the rookies to farm experience, busy with cleaning up the mess. Although it is tiring every day, it is indeed interesting. Then, I should speed up my actions as well. I hope that I can revive as soon as possible. At the very least, as the big brother of that idiot, I should use my original appearance to send that idiot off. Chapter 20. Lord, I beg you to help me. I really don't have a choice. The elf in front of me has a face full of peach blossoms. Her eyes are seductive and her green hair is smooth and beautiful. Her lips are red and puffy. Just by looking at her appearance, she can be called a beauty that can bring calamity to a country. But at this moment, she is crying like a pear blossom in the rain. The pair of peach blossom eyes that look at me are filled with sincerity and pleading. In an instant, she pounces into my embrace. However, I hurriedly pull open the robe that she is pulling on. I silently take a step back and increase the distance between us. What's wrong? Don't forget, you are a law enforcer and a man at that. Yes, the elf in front of me who is crying miserably is the smart and decisive elven first-rank defense officer, Crocer. Aintan. Elven males tend to be more androgynous and Crocer. Aintan is even hailed as the #1 beauty of the legal system. It always makes people suspect if they wrote the wrong gender on their work pass, and there is even a precedent of him being pulled into the female toilet. He is also troubled by it and tries his best to appear masculine in his daily life. Other people wear a silver mask to show that they have given up on their identity and uphold justice. Based on what I know, Crocer. Aintan wears a mask even when he is off duty. In a sense, he has a hobby of collecting and making masks. It is said that he has collected a cabinet full of judicial masks. Those exquisite silver masks are carved with the unique skills of the elves. Mithril, adamantine, and other precious materials are all used. The elf's craftsmanship is so good that he can draw a map of Sulphur Mountain City on the mask. But the mask is also a part of the uniform, so how can it be different? In order to not affect his work, the carvings are so small that it is impossible to distinguish them without a magnifying glass. In other words, all his efforts are in vain and it is all for naught. Even so, he treats it like a treasure every day, wiping it at least a few times. He doesn't even take it off when he showers or sleeps. Everyone knows why he does this, but no one is foolish enough to say it out loud. In the past, these masks had indeed given this female elven defense attorney courage and dignity. His natural meticulousness also gave him a deep understanding of the law. His faith and love for the law made me respect him even more. In my eyes, even if I didn't look at his appearance, he was still an excellent defense attorney. This was the first time I had ever seen an elven defense attorney throw away his mask and cry for help. Calm down, Crocer. Ain't. Take a deep breath. What happened? Did Sulphur Mountain City Prison get broken into and the criminals escape? Crows shook his head violently, and his tears scattered everywhere, wetting my sleeve. There were already people pointing and gossiping on the side. In order not to be suspected of having a problem with my sexual orientation, and in order not to become the #1 news spread by the Fujoshis in this world, I silently took a step back and put some distance between us. Is the dragon attacking the city? Have you informed the city lord? He shook his head again. It seemed like that wasn't the case. It's the magic beasts attacking the city. I asked a few possible answers, but I still shook my head. Finally, after Crocer caught his breath, he said it himself. It's Bayfong, the Draken Bayfong. Herald, that pervert. He's too much. At this moment, the beauty wiped away her tears and remembered that she was still in the court. She tried her best to squeeze out a smile. A beauty's smile after the rain was like a lotus flower scattering its charm. Hearing the exclamations and screams behind me, I silently took a step back and created a 3-meter distance between us. Then, from his narration, I got to know the ins and outs of the matter. That draken hunter with special hobbies, after the prohibition of humanoid and non-humanoid lifeforms beyond friendship law, and the pet-rearing permit conditions, were passed quickly, his pet and lover were taken away. Indeed, he suffered a heavy blow, but very quickly, he rose again. He stopped being a beast tamer and changed his profession to become a veterinarian, specializing in pet gynecology. Originally, this wasn't a big deal. Beast tamers have a deep understanding of animals and treating pets is an expert. Being a veterinarian is also a natural vocation. He only started working for a week, but his passionate, patient and caring skills were already well received. He even created his own caress of love, a technique to calm pets, but I brought my family's Xiao Bai to see a doctor, but in the end, we met that pervert. How is that pervert a doctor? He was clearly using a vulgar technique to toy with everyone's pets. He even smiled at me gleefully while playing with my family's Xiao Bai. Woo woo, Xiao Bai is so innocent, he even happily licked his fingers. I want to kill him to take revenge for Xiao Bai who was humiliated. If I didn't remember wrongly, Xiao Bai is his pet dog, Crocer cried pitifully. As a wild elf born in Druil, he abhorred this kind of unnatural actions. As an enforcer, Crowser even defended him. Beifeng's actions are basically disregarding the dignity of the law. Don't look at how Crowser is crying like a young girl throwing a tantrum. I don't doubt the truth of his killing intent towards Beifeng. Based on my understanding of his rigid mind, after committing a crime, he would definitely seek death. Perhaps, he came here to resign from his position as an enforcer and perish together with that pervert. I was a little speechless. If I let a subordinate I am so proud of die in the line of duty, I really don't know how to deal with it. Thus, I weakly said to the people behind me, "Stop watching the joke. Help me invite that pervert over. This is the first time I have met an opponent who can disregard my law like this." "Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, I will go immediately." As expected, a dozen replies rang out at the same time. This bunch of brats really hid in the corner to watch the joke. Crowser finally remembered that this is a public place and hurriedly stood up. However, his eyes were filled with expectation and trust, making me not know how to respond. My office isn't big. That pervert and I looked at each other across the office table, not knowing what to say for a moment. Could it be that I have to pass a new law to prohibit this fellow from being a veterinarian? No, it is fine to pass a law that targets a crime, but if it targets a certain person, then I would really become a joke. Furthermore, continuously changing the law itself is a huge taboo. This is equivalent to saying to the entire society that there is a problem with the original law. It will have a serious negative impact on the dignity of the law and the judiciary. Directly kill the other party? But it is easy to do. However, the crime and punishment must be proportionate. This is also the basic principle of the judiciary. Although this fellow is a pervert, his crime doesn't warrant death. From the perspective of justice, directly killing the other party if you can't catch the crime and judge the case is a foolish action that negates the value of the entire judicial system. Lock him up. Sorry, he didn't commit any crime. He is only fulfilling the duties of a pet gynecologist, meticulously caressing cute pets. Some touching is unavoidable. I guessed that he would definitely argue like this, and it makes perfect sense. We don't have any evidence. I lay sprawled on the chair. This is the first time I felt so powerless. I can't kill him, nor can I lock him up. So I can only watch him continue to play with cute pets. Even the allied army of the Holy Church isn't as difficult to deal with as this pervert. Beifeng. Heralt rolled his eyes, as though he had made up his mind. Lord, can I go back now? I still have work to do, there are many pets waiting to be treated. This fellow seems to be smiling honestly, but in reality, he is trying to show off to me. Is the Supreme Court very powerful? You still can't do anything to me. Normal methods aren't suitable. I am also good at using crooked methods. Slander, rumors, sneak attacks, framing, it is too easy to kill you. Just as I was about to go against common sense and deal with the pervert in front of me, a voice sounded beside my ear. Master, according to your plan, we need someone to go to jail. Isn't he suitable? Thus, I smiled and looked at the person in front of me carefully. No matter how I look at him, he looks like a pervert who should go to jail. He is suitable. Not bad. Making up my mind, I raised 2 fingers. Let's make a judicial deal. 2 things. If you can do it, I will help you get a pet raising license. You don't have to be a vet in the future. As long as you don't affect society in public, you can do whatever you want at home. I will pretend that I didn't see anything. Yes, Beifeng's hobby is only a sin on the moral level. As long as it doesn't cause a negative impact on society, as long as it doesn't cross my red line, I can still tolerate it. But, looking at the disgusting smile of the person in front of me, I feel disgusted. I really want to kill him with a finger of death. Closing my eyes to not look at the despicable smile of the draken in front of me, only after a long while did I calm down my emotions and restrain my killing intent. First, apologize to Crowser. It is that elf defense judge that you made cry. No matter what, others have defended you before. Repaying kindness with ingratitude, how can it be? Yes, my lord. I will apologize to Lady Crowser immediately. Yes, sir. As expected, seeing the astonished face of the draken, I continued. Second, Commit a crime for me. I will send you to Sulphur Mountain City Jail. I want you to do something for me in there. What? Prison break. When that Beifeng left, 4 to 5 hours had already passed by the time I finished the work that I had accumulated in this period of time. It was already the time when the moon was setting in the west. When I stood by the window and looked at the peaceful and prosperous scene outside, I sighed. Sulphur Mountain City has been peaceful for too long. It is so peaceful that some people have forgotten their own duties. Isn't this all thanks to you? Are you boasting about yourself again? As usual, she had a venomous tongue. At this moment, I didn't have the mood to bicker with her. No, we should be thanking Adam and Marguerite. It was them who protected this city amidst the crazy internal strife in the underground world. But obviously, some people have already forgotten the kindness they received. It is time to remind them. Eliza nodded her head. Traitors will never be forgiven. Actually, according to the rules of the underground city, we can eliminate them directly. This is also the opinion of most of the high-tier spies on the sidelines. This is Sulphur Mountain City, everyone is equal. There is no existence of power. At least not on the surface. It isn't easy for us to have peace. Alright, even if it is on the surface, we have to cherish it. Let's do things according to the rules of Sulphur Mountain City. We need to accidentally obtain the evidence of the traitor's crimes and cause some people to die accidentally. Yes, as long as we create chaos, our spies will start to collect evidence. As long as the evidence is conclusive, it will be time for the Hall of Judgment and Hall of Law Enforcement to take action. Are the trackers and magic tracing imprints ready? I don't wish for a single criminal to really escape. Yes, everything is ready. The magic tracing imprints have already been placed in the prison's drinking water. It won't disappear for 3 months, which is more than enough for you to capture them all. All 3,600 of us, the spectators, will be mobilized. As long as the number of escapees is below 1,000, not a single innocent citizen will be harmed. Then let the dogs out to bite people. Sulphur Mountain City is too peaceful. How can I use a knife to cut off the rotten meat? Releasing the prisoners to lure the snake out of its hole is a risky move. Back then, when I was talking to the 4 heavenly kings, I spent quite a bit of effort to get them to support my action. Yes, the spectators will force those special criminals to escape to a suitable place. Even if they don't go, our spies will lead them there. But I am just worried that Beifeng will be able to successfully escape from the prison. Don't underestimate him. Look at this. Looking at the documents in front of her, even the usually calm Eliza exclaimed in shock. How is this possible? A gold rank beast tamer. Beast tamer master? Yes, this is the natural advantage of a long-lived species. As long as they live long enough, they will eventually become stronger. Furthermore, Beast Tamer is indeed a natural beast tamer. His love for wild beasts. Forget it, let's not talk about it, it is too disgusting. Look at this report. Target X hasn't even entered the prison for an hour and all of the other prisoners requested to change their rooms. Someone shouted, "Don't let me be in the same room as that pervert, if I don't change my cell, I will die." At the same time, there really is a prisoner banging his head on the wall to die. This is too exaggerated. Not only that, there is a zhizhi sound coming from the cell. He should be summoning the rats to help him. I hope that it is just to help him escape from the prison. I don't want to continue thinking about it. Somehow, the killing intent that I suppressed with much difficulty starts to boil once again. Must we do this? There is no wall in the world that doesn't have a crack. If the news of releasing the prisoners were to leak out, your reputation. Even if the news doesn't leak out, just the fact that there is a prison break in the judicial system and the guards aren't strict enough, the punishment of demotion and investigation is unavoidable. Even if Adam doesn't punish me, I will take the initiative to do so. After a long while, Eliza continues to speak. Are you trying to suppress your own reputation? Is it worth it? If the reputation and prestige of the subordinate is higher than the highest leader, then it would be hard for the leader to be. Since I want to help and up the position, then I should just go through with the act. Not to mention, the tide of the new era is about to arrive. No one can stop this calamity. In the change of the era, what does this little bit of reputation of mine count for? Not to mention, you are still wondering if little Anne would be so touched by your sacrifice that she would devote her life to you. My face is filled with astonishment, but I hear her continuing to choke. Devote her life to me? Based on her personality, she will only anger you, annoy you, and ignore you. It would be best if she ignores you for the rest of her life. Looking at the blushing half-demon girl in front of me, completely different from her usual ice-cold expression, I say this out of curiosity. Are you jealous? Are you jealous that I treat Anne better than you? Then, in an instant, the air in the office stills. Looking at the venomous-tongued maid's red face that reaches her ears and her eyes that are filled with anger and embarrassment, I start to pray for my collection. It's over, I said the wrong thing. She will definitely take revenge. The weird thing is that she maintains a weird silence. After a long while, she finally squeezes out a sentence. If I am really jealous, then you, Eliza's voice gets softer and softer and the rest of her words can no longer be heard clearly. What? Just as I am racking my brains to think of a joke to ease the atmosphere, suddenly, the office door is opened. Crowser rushes in and the blushing Eliza instantly disappears into the shadows. Lord, bad news, there is a prison break in Sulphur Mountain City Prison. What are you panicking for? This isn't part of the plan. But it isn't part of our plan. That pervert didn't manage to dig through the wall and another prison break occurred. Someone is attacking the prison. This is a real prison break. The prisoners have escaped. The situation is already out of control. Catcher. This is the sound of me crushing the armrest of the wooden chair. What follows after is a suffocating siphon of magic power. In the next second, the entire world warps and the colorful world turns into black and white. Eliza is chased out of the shadows and Crowser is also pushed out of the room by the rampaging magic power. These bastards are tired of living, to actually dare to cause trouble at my trump card. Those blind bastards, I will kill your entire family. Alright, in front of the office door, those hooligan-like words, in the end, became the dark history of the always courteous Chief Judge Wu Mianzi. Chapter 21. Before a certain someone shamelessly expanded the number of counselors, Sulphur Mountain City's counselors used to be a respectable job. As the representatives of various industries and the interests of various races, they were able to negotiate with the internal affairs, the legal system and the city lord, proposing suggestions and proposals. If the suggestion received the support of the entire counselors, even the city lord had to take it seriously. When Adam made it clear that he was just a mascot and didn't care about the affairs, the legal system was only interested in law and order. Most of the time, the counselors were able to make the internal affairs take a step back, even if the head of the internal affairs was the great Saint Marguerite. Of course, authority also represented benefits. Just a single tax on trade and the entry of goods represented countless dazzling gold coins. As these counselors realized the benefits in their hands, how could they be willing to remain as mere merchants and commoners? After all, there are naturally noble nobles in this world and even royalty who the country is my private property. The human heart will never be satisfied and in peace, they would naturally look to a higher place. Now, when ordinary workers, farmers, aunties from the neighborhood committee, fishmongers have all become counselors, when is dancing in the morning considered disturbing the citizens, or can the counselors provide free lunch? These topics replaced should we purchase Chrome City's black gold ores, the status of those merchants, clan heads and elder counselors were pulled down imperceptibly. This naturally made them unhappy. When the overstaffed counselors caused the counselors to become slow and sluggish, the opposing counselors scolded each other and fought with each other, creating an arena for the citizens to watch the commotion. The original first-generation counselors felt even more aggrieved and hated the seemingly friendly advisor, the devil-like cunning and evil Wu Mianzi. Counselor Grant, please make up your mind. At this moment, in Counselor Grant's office, a group of young and energetic counselors from the Alliance faction had already surrounded the old and mediocre counselor. At this moment, they forced him to make up his mind. Now that the entire city is filled with fugitives, chaos is unavoidable. We must protest against the useless city lord and remove that foolish masked man from his position. Also, Dismiss that group of disgusting dark elf bitches. That's right. Acting city lord and is too young and inexperienced. She's unable to convince the masses, and that's why this mess happened. She should be removed from her position and punish. The table made of precious mahogany was knocked on by the agitated councillors. The old president turned his head to look outside the window. It was already time to get off work. In the past, there would be crowds of people returning home everywhere. The elderly would take their grandchildren for a stroll, the young couples would wander in the garden, and the shops along the street would sell dinners with the specialties of various races. The fragrance of the dishes would spread far and wide. But at this moment, thick smoke billowed everywhere. The streets that used to be filled with laughter were now empty except for screams of fear and flames. Enough. Taking a deep breath, the old president, who was known for his mediocrity, calmly removed his spectacles and looked at his well-dressed colleagues. What? Senator Khan, who was the leader, did not expect such a reaction from the president. "Pa," I said, "that's enough." The roar of the old man shocked all the councillors. Those blood-red eyes were like those of a ferocious beast waiting to devour them. Even though they were used to the noisy parliament, they were still shocked that the mediocre president, who usually spoke like he was reciting scriptures, the old fellow who would drink tea and doze off during the meeting, would actually have such a furious side. Other than the fugitives, there should be your private army outside too. Do you know what you are doing? You are plotting a rebellion. The rage of the old president made the councillors subconsciously take a step back. But the one who was seen as the most likely to become the next president, Khan, stood out. Sulphur Mountain City belongs to everyone, so how could it be a rebellion? We are only inviting City Lord Adam to return to support the work and punish the officials who failed in their duties. After the situation calms down, we will invite him to be the permanent honorary City Lord. Looking at this luxuriously dressed middle-aged councillor looking at him calmly, President Grant was taken aback for a moment before smiling. "Heh, you aren't stupid. I understand, you are afraid. You are afraid that after the old City Lord abdicates, the young new City Lord won't be able to protect you in the chaotic underground world. You want to force and to leave so that the old City Lord can be the so-called honorary City Lord and continue to be your protector. It is good that you can understand. By then, you will be the future head of the Internal Affairs Department. Shameless." A mouthful of saliva was spat on Khan's face. In an instant, the kind face of the boss of gold jade jewelry twisted. "You want to chase away someone else's adopted daughter and then make others fight for you, shameless people. To think that you dare to think of it, to think that you have the face to say it, I am ashamed to be on the same side as you." The councillors wanted to say something, but the furious old president didn't stop his criticism. His right hand pointed at an energetic old gentleman. "Lullas. 50 years ago, because of your father's crime, your entire family became slaves and were sold to Chrome City as sacrifices for the evil cult. It was the kind old city lord who risked his relationship with Chrome City to personally save you. I still remember that you were still a child then. You cried while kowtowing. I will never forget the grace of saving my life. Is this how you repay the kindness? Twen. Your father died in the line of duty for Sulphur Mountain City, and you always appear in front of the citizens as the descendant of a hero." "Me? Descendant of a hero? A deserter who deserted the battlefield and was killed by a stray bullet. Do you have any shame? Seeing that your family needed a pension, Lord Marguerite gave him an honorable death. Is this how you repay Lord's mercy? Sudinan. You, one of the 3 young heroes of our council, had a pitiful life. Your family of 13 was exterminated and you were the only one who survived. Let me ask you, who personally made a move and spent half a year to track down the culprit and bring him back to trial to avenge you? Who arranged for you to be an adult? You can't answer. Don't you specialize in long speeches and stirring up public opinion? Let me tell you, it was Lord Wu Mianzi who you scolded as the devil. Carter. You are cursed by your family bloodline, if not for the great saint. Lunas. You. And you. Khan. Let me ask you, back then, you were cheated to the point of bankruptcy? Who was the one who helped you get back a portion of your family's assets and got the administrative council to vouch for you? Do you think that with your old face, Those goblins would lend you money. You owe Lord Marguerite and Lord Wumianzi a favor at the same time, and you still have the face to rebel against them? One after another, the council members were scolded, but no one dared to raise their heads. After all, sometimes, in front of an old man who knows them well, it is hard for a guilty person to raise his head. Sometimes, even the wicked know that justice is in the hearts of the people. You shameless fellows, you seem to have forgotten where you are. This is Sulphur Mountain City, the cursed underground world. Without the protection of the city lord and the others for 100 years, you powerless fellows would have long become the slaves and food of the strong. Enough, there is no need for you, the most mediocre old man in the history of the council. We will do it ourselves. Not only from embarrassment but also from anger, the flushed Khan turned around and left. The other council members lowered their heads, not daring to look at their colleague's face as they followed Khan out. To them who have their masks exposed, every second they stay here is like being cut by a knife. But the sarcasm of the old man came from behind. Mediocre? I am indeed mediocre and foolish, but do you know that I have created a record in the council? Although no one replied, upon hearing the record of the council, all the council members stopped in their tracks. Me, Grant Ball, this mediocre old man, has been in office for 13 years, the second longest serving head of the council. I even wanted to challenge my father Ball's record of 16 years. Unfortunately, it has been ruined by you all. This head, who is famous for being muddlehead in the city, at this moment, his face is flushed and he is in high spirits. Not only is he not muddlehead at all, his gaze towards his colleague is filled with a strange emotion. That is, sympathy. It is just living for a long time. What is there to be proud of? Of course it is there to be proud of. The previous head Li Wensi, an Easterner who is skilled in both the pen and the sword. Under the pressure, he planned to reduce the number of members in the council. In the end, he died. After 3 years in office, he was turned into a zombie by a passing necromancer. The previous head Karl Oven, an expert in public speeches, he was highly praised by the citizens. He once organized demonstrations and forced the head of administration Marguerite to give in several times. He was hailed as the true uncrowned king of Sulphur Mountain City. In the end, he died after 3 years in office. His stomach was sliced open by a petty thief and his intestines flowed all over the floor. He died in a deserted alley. Khan and the other council members were still filled with impatience just a moment ago, but now, their entire body is covered in sweat and their backs are cold. The previous deputy head Ben, the previous head Kaya was from the City Lord's faction. In the end, he started a rumor that he was having a relationship with a woman, forcing her to commit suicide. Ben is indeed a talent, he did it so flawlessly that even the rabid dogs of the legal system couldn't find any evidence. In the end, he was dragged into a bar fight and went missing for 20 years. But every year on the anniversary of Kaya's death, there would be an additional body part of a man in front of her grave as an offering. The year before last, it was a right-hand finger. On it was Ben, that old fellow's copper ring. At this moment, all of the council members turn their heads in fear. They don't dare to look down on the old fellow who could be buried any moment now. Could it be Adam and the rest who did it? I thought they were good people. Lord Marguerite and the old city lord are indeed good people. But do you know, the Wumianzi that you all scold as a cunning devil, what was he first called? What? The executioner of the law, that is even more evil than the devil. This is used to describe his invisible hand. As long as someone crosses the line and tramples on the law, no matter who it is, he will cut them down with a KLR. Do you think that you all are the only ones who know how to incite, change the public opinion and control the people's will? Which lord can even change the memories of others? What is the big deal about changing the rumors in the direction they wish? My old man, Old Bar, the longest-serving council member in history, only said one sentence to me before he died. Do you all know what it is? How would these council members who are filled with fear have the guts to reply him? Their faces are as pale as a corpse, and the leader, Khan, roars angrily. Old fellow, I am not interested in knowing. But the old council member shakes his head and continues speaking with a face full of reminiscence. He said to me, Sulphur Mountain City is the paradise of the underground world, but that is because there is a devil who does all the dirty work on himself. He got rid of all the dirty things that aren't as evil as him, so his face is as clean and beautiful as heaven. If you want to become a council member in the future, it is very simple. Be a little dumb and don't have ambitions that surpass your own capabilities. Then, the fools in front of you will die and you will be able to rise to the position. Ha, he is right. The two of us who have lived the longest are probably the most mediocre council members in history. At this moment, Khan doesn't have the arrogance from before. He opens his mouth wide and takes in deep breaths, like a toad that has come ashore. He feels as though an invisible chain is quietly placed on his neck. That coldness that is close to death makes one suffocate. Right, the rest of you should be with Chrome City. Do you all think that by colluding with the Underground Alliance, you can defeat the three heads? Become the future nobles and royalty? Hihi, you all have never seen a real war, naive children. No matter who wins or loses, the first to be eliminated is you despicable traitors. Old fellow. The rash Sudinan punches the old council member's face. Council member Grant smashes onto the table. His spectacles are broken and the corners of his mouth and eyes are covered in blood. But he smiles in satisfaction. Hihi, why do you think I said so much to you all? Am I not afraid of the news spreading? It is because I want to live, fools. Is that so? Lord Wumianzi, the dead won't leak secrets. Since these stupid snakes are out of their holes, it is about time to pull in the net. Pa, that is a weird clap that sounds like bones colliding. But at this moment, in the ears of the council members, it is a note of death. A slender figure walks out from the shadows. Under the silver mask is a pair of cold red eyes. That weird clap comes from the crystal ball in the hands of the enforcer. Silver Rose, the head of the intelligence organization, observer, Sulphur Mountain City's underground queen. The sudden appearance of Wumianzi's trusted aide, the infamous intelligence queen, smashes the last line of defense of the council members. You, looking at the agitated council member who is pointing at her rudely, Silver Rose frowns, seemingly a little dissatisfied. Cha with a snap of her fingers, the invisible threads in the room tightens. The next second, all of the council members feel their necks being tightened. That invisible rope hangs them up to the sky. Yes, from the start, the invisible shackles that Khan felt wasn't an illusion. As traitors, they have been sentenced to death. A few seconds later, like a fish that was hung up on the shore, the struggling council members calmed down one by one. Eternal peace. Seeing his colleague suddenly hang to death, old Grant's face is filled with anxiety. But the voice from the crystal ball makes him relax. Looks like I have underestimated you and your father. Forget it, at least I am satisfied with you. If you don't want to see your son die, then you better take good care of that grandson of yours who always uses your name to cause trouble. Oh right, good luck in the next election, I look forward to your election. Silver Rose still doesn't even bat an eye. After bowing, she takes a step back and disappears into the shadows. The old council member who is leaning on the table, panting heavily. However, he is the only living person in the room. Ha ha, I survived. Even though Silver Rose has already walked out of the building, the old man's laughter after surviving a calamity can still be heard. The current Sulphur Mountain City is in complete chaos. The escaped criminals and the private soldiers of the big merchants are smashing and robbing. Outside the city, the dark elves and the elite troops are preparing to sneak in. It seems that the heaven of the underground world has turned into hell. At the same time, on top of a tall tower, I am looking at the chaos and devastation below me. Behind me, the head of the Hall of Law Shueti, the head of the Hall of Law Kale and the head of the Hall of Judgment Kevin are looking at the tragedy below angrily. All right, don't look so bitter. It is almost rotting to the bones. If we don't shed some blood, how are we going to cut off the rotten flesh? If we don't get beaten until our heads bleed, how would we remember the pain? In order to imprint the desire for peace in the minds of these fools, for the stability and peace of Sulphur Mountain City for the next 30 years, just bear with it. Furthermore, our men have already started to move. Things will turn for the better soon. When Silver Rose, UN, who is my head maid Eliza, appears in front of me again, I know that the situation has changed. UN. Those fools really colluded with the other underground cities. The army is going to enter the city. Hee, the 4 heavenly kings, we have some fun. Let's go and play together. Chapter 22. I'm a good person, I'm really a good person. This had almost become my catchphrase. Every time I said this, the audience's expression and attitude would be very strange and subtle. Hee, the weather today is not bad. It's sunny and sunny, especially suitable for camping. Right, us Tauren are really not interested in fodder. Can you bring steak instead of fodder the next time we go camping? I like it medium rare the most, it tastes the best with some blood. This was the reply of the silly cow that loves to eat beef. Although it was obviously changing the topic, it was still the most comfortable reply. Hey, master, you are so funny, but this joke is a little outdated. Haha, good person? I'm dying of laughter. If you are a good person, then I am a Casanova. Adam really didn't give me any face at all. No, even if Roland becomes a good person, it is impossible for you to become a Casanova. However, Adam, your goal is very high. Casanova? Do you want me to build a harem for you to accept beauties? But very quickly, Marguerite's substantial resentment made Adam understand the meaning of a loose tongue causing trouble. UN, these words were naturally passed on by me to Marguerite. Alright, most of the people who had some understanding of me probably had the same reaction as Eliza and the idiot Adam. They treated my good person theory as another joke. However, in my mind, I was indeed trying my best to be a good person. As a Lich, if I were to help an old lady cross the road, she would probably immediately call for the town security to save her. However, getting rid of evil is also doing good. Getting rid of an Evildor is more effective than doing 10 small acts of kindness. Allowing the entire city to operate in an orderly manner and allowing the ordinary citizens to live a good life, no matter how I look at it, it is worth 100,000 good karma. However, it was a pity that my evil Lich system wouldn't acknowledge it no matter what. It continued to assign evil daily missions one after another. However, I couldn't not do these missions. How could I revive if my evil points were constantly deducted? As an enforcer, I couldn't do as I pleased. Thus, I had to rack my brains to turn these destructive daily missions into pranks that didn't violate the law. Forcing hundreds of people to roll on the ground in despair? Let's try Tickle Hell. The after effects of this was that the chicken feathers that were used to create Tickle Hell would earn me a huge sum of fines and fees for dealing with the aftermath. Killing an intelligent creature in public? The more horrible the death, the better. That's easy. I'll choose you, Lord Cockroach. First, I'll use the intelligence enhancement technique. Then, I'll use the Manchurian Ching's 10 great tortures. Hee, should I start with tearing you apart by 5 horses or cutting you up by 1,000 blades? Eliza, lend me your darning needle. What was it used for? Of course it's a scalpel. The after effects of this incident were that Eliza ignored me for a week, and she didn't come within 3 meters of me for a month. She looked at me with disdain, and when she had no choice but to call me Master Bug, in the beginning, it was hard to mess around like this. But later on, it was fun to have a contest of wits with the city enforcement officers. I seem to understand why Shueti and Lilith always joined the town security's camp. The ancients were right, happiness and perversion are contagious. UN, as a law enforcer, I can't always cause trouble for the city enforcement officers. I have to find a chance to reprimand them. Mysterious voice, you have the cheek to reprimand them? Cough, seems like I went off topic again. Let's get back to the main topic. I used to be confused as to why the system wasn't willing to admit that I was a good person. I also wondered if I would be an evil Lich forever. But one day, when I was roaring at a criminal, I somehow figured it out. You think that by killing the other party's father and giving away all of your family's assets to compensate the other party's daughter, you would be innocent? You are just deceiving yourself. Hypocrite. No matter what you did, the crime has already been committed. The victim's pain has already become a reality the moment you committed the crime. No matter how you refute or compensate, You can't change the crime that has already been committed. Only by accepting the judgment and punishment of the law can you wash away your sins. If you really regret what you did, you should properly reform yourself in prison and atone for your sins. Then, when you come out, you can be a clean person. Let's not talk about the impulsive murderer who was sentenced to 15 years in prison due to the victim's daughter's plea. When this case came to an end, the moment I left the court, I collapsed. A sense of powerlessness that I have never felt before troubled me. In an empty, silent room, I collapsed on the chair, clutching my head. Looking at my arms that were only bones, I finally figured it out. No matter what I do in the future, the crimes of the past will always be carried on my shoulders. The souls that died because of me are enough to fill the entire river Styx. No matter how many people I save, how many good deeds I have done, I am still a sinner. I can't even deceive my own heart, so how can I make the system admit that I have become a good person? On the monument of law in front of the Supreme Court, there is a motto that I personally wrote: only a fair trial and the punishment of the law can wash away one's sins. No one can be an exception. But it seems like there isn't anyone who can judge me yet. Then, naturally, I can only continue to wander between good and evil, waiting for the day of judgment that might never come. Perhaps, in my heart, I can faintly feel that the great sinner who almost destroyed the world is sitting on the bench of the judge, judging a small sinner who killed a few people. How ironic and laughable is that? So what if I'm a hypocrite? I'm not saying stupid words like seeking peace of mind. I just feel that it isn't time for the Ike continent to be destroyed yet. Since the original history has already proven that normal methods are unable to overcome the calamity, then let me, a hypocrite, give it a try with my crooked methods. Yes, that is how I did it. But now, I met with a little trouble. At this moment, I received intelligence from the Observer that the ones who attacked the east gate of Sulphur Mountain City is Chrome City's Blackwater Army. They are the personal guards of the City Lord Steelback Pig HNG. HNG is the name of this Beastman City Lord. Please respect the Pig Tribe Beastman's tradition of naming their cubs after them when they are born. But it is a pity that the other side effect of this tradition is that as long as you shout HNG, I'll F***CKUX at the gathering place of the Pig Tribe Beastmen, there would be 300 to 400 HNG coming to find trouble with you. There was once a wise man of the Flying Red Pig Tribe, Pighead 3, who came up with the method of numbering their names to solve this problem. But, due to the low intelligence of the Pig Tribe Beastmen, the most they can do is to count to 20 using their toes. This method isn't practical and they could only give up helplessly. Alright, the creator is still fair. Although the intelligence of the Pig Tribe Beastmen is worrisome, they are shockingly ugly and smelly to the point that it reminds one of a pig barn, but they are born with godly strength and thick skin. Most importantly, they are especially fertile. As long as the population of any race increases, there will always be mutated geniuses appearing and there will be no lack of experts. The Blackwater Army is such an example. Every new soldier is chosen from 1,000 Pig Tribe Beastmen. Then, they are trained by killing each other, eliminating the weak and keeping the strong. In the end, the 10 who survive will become the glorious personal guards of City Lord HNG. Although the Blackwater Army only has 3,000 people at full strength and they have the obvious weakness of slow footwork, their average level is 50 silver rank. It is also a classic combination of Beastman berserkers and shaman priests. The Pig Tribe Beastmen are born with thick skin and thick flesh. If the shaman activates the bloodlust demonic art, this kind of heavy infantry unit would turn into countless moving mountains of flesh when they go berserk. It is hard to defend against a frontal assault and they are quite famous for their prowess. Of course, this is only in the underground world where experts are as common as clouds. If such a heavy army appeared on the surface, it would at least be at the level of a human empire's royal guards. 15 minutes ago, there were close to 1,000 Blackwater heavy infantry and dark shamans charging through the opened eastern gate, unbridled and unbridled. Looks like, in order to show goodwill to the Underground Alliance and completely take down Sulphur Mountain City, City Lord HNG is willing to send out close to half of his family. Furthermore, those corrupt councillors were actually able to hide them outside the city. The latest to face them is the Dark Elf Town Security Patrol team who received the report first. They only have a small team of 10 people. In order to cover the escape of the ordinary citizens, a small team of Dark Elf Holy Knight fought to the death without retreating. Dark elves tend to be beautiful while the pig tribe beast men are naturally violent and lustful. They aren't picky about life and death. Corpses are eaten while being desecrated and played with at the same time. The corpses of the loyal guard officers become toys for the beast men. Perhaps we should thank the pig tribe beast men for their messy military discipline and stupidity. In order to fight for the right to enjoy the spoils of war, they even started to fight with one another. At this moment, when I rushed over, in front of me is a scene of hell on earth. But I am glad that I am still an evil Lich system. As long as I can become stronger as I wish, it is so simple. After all, evil people need to be dealt with by evil people. What else can be more evil than being dealt with by evil, more unscrupulous than thugs, more delightful than them? A cold and vicious curse resonates in my soul and endless killing intent roars in my mind. Finally, it turns into cold words. Kill them all. Chapter 23. While the entire Sulphur Mountain city is in a state of chaos, the three heads strangely remain silent. In fact, there are already rumors that the three heads are using this opportunity to get rid of dissidents. But putting aside the others, if that single-celled Adam is in the city, how could he not make a move personally? In reality, that's because the three heads aren't in the city at the moment. In fact, even the acting city lord isn't in the city. When I reported to them that there might be a fire elemental god sealed beneath Sulphur Mountain, Marguerite immediately went to investigate and verified the existence of a semigod and above fire elemental in the mountain range. Troublesome, extremely troublesome. I don't know who made the seal, to actually use the entire Sulphur Mountain range as a suppressing formation. Although they cleverly used the underground spirit vein as the energy source for the suppressing formation, making it very sturdy, if they aren't careful, the entire mountain range and Sulphur Mountain City might be blown apart. While everyone was worrying, the mysterious voice glanced around. All right, Little Red is sleeping, I'm playing ghost hunting with the town security, and Adam is laughing foolishly without a care in the world. Then I should fix it. At the very least, Marguerite is worried. What makes everyone speechless is that Adam, who is overjoyed after hearing the news, expresses his genius idea. A natural underground heat source. Then, if we pour some water, wouldn't we have a hot spring? Sulfur hot spring baths are said to have miraculous effects on all kinds of skin diseases and can even recover from fatigue. I have wanted to build one for a long time. Alright, actions are faster than thoughts. A typical human-shaped gorilla, in Roland's words, whose hands and feet are instinctively directing his brain's actions, he immediately takes action. In less than a day, he found the deepest point of the geothermal heat source and used his sacred sword to dig a huge lake. He even found the druil in the city to fill it with water for the rain, but when Marguerite and I decided to teach him why flowers are so red, the bruised and swollen Adam finally thought of an explanation, or rather, an explanation he came up with. Why is he still bruised and swollen even after explaining? After playing with everyone's feelings, does he think that he won't be beaten up just because he explained? I had long since seized the opportunity to strike first in the chaos. Marguerite had taken the opportunity to vent her anger, and Little Red had purely added to the chaos for fun. Let's not talk about that delightful 3 versus 1 battle. Back to the main topic, Adam's explanation was also a suitable way to resolve the situation. For a phoenix to undergo nirvana, it needs to throw itself into the raging flames and burn itself to death. My fire phoenix inheritance also needs a large amount of heat. Using this pool, I can directly extract a large amount of heat and complete the highest quality inheritance for and, allowing her to preserve a large amount of power after undergoing nirvana and quickly mature. Furthermore, the heat source is equivalent to the physical strength and magic power of a fire elemental. If we drain him dry, the fire elemental god would be crippled. I have to say, even though he is usually unreliable, that fellow Adam is indeed a qualified hero. His luck and intuition aren't bad. This seemingly random stab actually struck the most painful spot of the opponent. To some people, the release of the seal of the fire elemental god is directly related to the arrival of the elemental tide. This is related to the historical trend of the entire world. When they find out that a Rollerweiss is weakening, to the point where he might not be able to cause the elemental tide anymore, how can they accept it? Thus, without anyone knowing, the City Lord and the head of the Internal Affairs Department brought the acting City Lord to Sulphur Mountain Range. For safety's sake, they even chose Little Red's dragon lair as a cover. But obviously, there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. In this world where prophecy magic is extremely developed, there is no such thing as an absolute secret. Maybe they found out about the departure of the City Lord from the traitors within Sulphur Mountain City, or maybe they found out that something is amiss through their investigation of the fire elemental god, or maybe they just directly used prophecy magic to find out that something is amiss. The three heads are blocked. The girl in the blue robe stood there by herself. The slender wooden cane in her hand didn't seem to have been repaired in the slightest. Just like its naturally beautiful master, it simply stood there, as eternal as the river of history, simple and profound, as if it was formed by nature itself. Her looks can only be considered beautiful. Below her head is clean blue hair and her gold-rimmed spectacles have slid to the bridge of her nose. If it wasn't for the silver chain tied to her elf ears, she might have fallen to the ground a long time ago. The Undying is gentle and quiet, but she has a natural scholarly aura. If one were to look at her appearance, rather than the wise and authoritative saint, it would be more accurate to say that she is a librarian who is engrossed in books and always forgets to eat lunch. But at this moment, this librarian is on a killing spree. Heaven above, earth below, with books and the contract of constellation as a witness, with the order of the Saint Marguerite, ancient spirits of the stars, please accept my summons. Chimera constellation, Leo constellation, Unicorn constellation, Chariot constellation, descend. With a wave of Marguerite's cane, the nameless Valkyrie descended along with the starlight, descending to the mortal world. The tall and sturdy chariot giant, the three monsters that play with fire, lightning, and ice at the same time, the radiant white unicorn warhorse that represents protection and holiness, the Lion Man Legion that is made up of gold-ranked soldiers, the heroes of the legends have turned into reality. The legendary warriors fight under the command of the saint. This is the military power of the semigod mage, who is able to fight against a country alone. But even so, her situation is still not good. Because, this is an unfair battle from the start. It is a battle where an individual fights against an army. Her opponent, although not a country, is the Underground Alliance army that is more dangerous than the Empire on Earth. The remaining 2,000 warriors of the Blackwater army are all here. City Master HNG, who is wearing a black mud armor, with the position of an underground city master, is still charging at the front. He is also being forced into a mess by the Valkyrie army. If not for his guards sacrificing themselves as meat shields, he would have died countless times. In front of a semigod mage, a legendary warrior like HNG is just a slightly higher level cannon fodder. But to be able to make an underground city master willing to be cannon fodder, it can only mean that the commanding position of the Underground Alliance army is much higher. Furthermore, the commanding position of the Underground Alliance army is shocking, able to suppress the retaliation of an underground city master like HNG Wu. Following the sound of the horn, another 1,000-man orc legion steps into the battlefield. Some of them are bloodthirsty lion men, some are ferocious and strong werewolves, and some are powerful elephant men. The weakest among them is a gold-ranked warrior, but they silently step into the battlefield and silently engage in a bloody battle with the fleshless Star Souls. They silently die in battle, giving up the space for the reserve troops to enter. The black eye emblem, it's the Old Guard Legion, they are really willing to part with it. Looking at the tall figure on the distant mountain range with his arms crossed, Marguerite is deep in thought, but her hands do not hesitate at all. Earth below, humans above, with the scroll and the contract of the stars as a witness, descend death for my enemies, stars fall. Following Marguerite's chant, starlight actually appears in the underground world. As the starlight slowly falls, a huge pit with a radius of 3 meters is formed. Naturally, the pit is filled with the flesh and blood of the orcs. The Beastman sovereign of the underground world, Sho Nuya, with a height of more than 3 meters, isn't considered much among the orcs with outstanding physique. The black mask that he is wearing makes him look less ferocious. Now, he is just standing at the edge of the battlefield, looking coldly at his tribesmen and warriors who are dying for nothing. This feeling, the pinnacle of the sacred realm? What a pity, it seems like he understands me quite well. He is completely out of my attack range. If he was in my mage tower now. Obviously, even if the army is completely destroyed, the experienced Beastman Sovereign still has no intention of entering the battlefield personally. With a wave of his hand, the horn at the side sounds once again, and another elite troop of 1,000 men silently enters the battlefield. This is clearly taking advantage of the fact that the Sage class is skilled in copying and analyzing the opponent's magic. They are strong in a one-on-one duel, but their own explosive power is insufficient. Looks like I have been underestimated by the younger generation. Margaret smiled lightly. Then, the ivy wood shook slightly, and the 7 luminary stones around it started to emit rune-like mageweths. Then, it floated in the air. 1st to 3rd, chant Ice Eon. 4th and 5th, repeat the spell. 6th and 7th, magic shield. The red, orange, and yellow Philosopher's Stones form a circle. The ultimate elemental magic copied from Lord Yungyeh starts to turn the entire world into an ice field. Snowflakes start to fall from the sky and the ice elves are playing around. This is the eve of the activation of an armor-destroying strategic-level magic. The green and cyan Philosopher's Stones start to automatically chant the magic that the sage just released. Heaven above, earth below, with the scroll and the contract of the stars as proof, with the command of the sage Marguerite, the ancient spirits of the stars, please accept my summons. Chimeras, Leo, unicorns, war chariots, descend. Earth below, humans above, with the scroll and the contract of the stars as proof, bring death to my enemies. Fall of the stars. That voice is exactly the same as Marguerite's. The stars that are summoned along with it sweep away the 1,000-man army that just entered the battlefield. The celestial army that is exactly the same as before replenishes the losses of their side and a new army formation is established. The most dangerous one is still the strategic-level magic. How can the opponent's long-range troops watch as Ice Eon is released? Countless arrows and magic are shot towards Marguerite, but she doesn't even turn her head. She just lowers her head and patiently controls the Philosopher's Stone. When the last 2 Philosopher's Stones revolve around her, a blue and purple intersecting magic shield easily nullifies these hasty attacks. Very quickly, the chant of the red, orange, and yellow Philosopher's Stones is coming to an end. A black nameless arrow suddenly shoots towards the ground between the 3 Philosopher's Stones. Catcher. Before it could even touch the ground, the arrow disintegrates by itself. A black magic storm suddenly erupts and the chant of the Philosopher's Stone is disrupted. In a moment of distortion, the forbidden spell, Ice Eon, is actually triggered prematurely. The white snowflake crystals suddenly condense into a ball and explode in all directions. Snow falls and ice spreads. In an instant, the entire world is forcefully turned into white. Under the might of the forbidden spell, the boiling volcano turns into the peak of ice. No matter if it is the Celestials or Beast Men, as long as they are engulfed by it, they turn into ice sculptures. As for Marguerite herself, due to the prematurely detonation of the forbidden spell, she is also engulfed by the area of effect. Fortunately, the blue and purple magic shield protects her. The saint frowns. If it wasn't for the Philosopher's Stone replacing her to chant the spell, the backlash of the magic after the forbidden spell is disrupted wouldn't just be a matter of spitting out 1 or 2 mouthfuls of blood. Magic exploding arrow? I didn't think that the famous demon hunter Miniel would also come. Isn't he the chieftain of the centaur beast men, famous for being arrogant and unruly? I didn't think that he would actually seek refuge with Shou Nuya. Is returning to the surface so attractive? Even though the prematurely detonation of Ice Eon only has 1/3 of its power, when the entire mountain range turns into an ice field, the Beastman Sovereign's location in the distance also turns into an ice field. However, 2 gigantic black dragons stand in front of the expressionless underground autarch. The black dragons are born with high magic resistance, but in the face of the weakened Ice Eon, it isn't enough. The 2 black dragons who sacrificed their lives to protect their master are already frozen into white ice sculptures. But their sacrifice as a shield does reduce the impact of the beastmen behind them. Even so, The tall manticore lord doesn't even look at his sacrificed subordinates. With a tug of his dragon's tail, he uses brute force to throw the corpse of the black dragon to the side. Even though it is already a mountain of ice and a blade of frost in front of him, his face is still as calm as ever, as though he had expected it. Then, he takes out the horn from the hands of his trusted aide who was frozen to death and blows it personally. Woo woo, woo woo, woo woo. After 3 hurried sounds of the bugle, a greyish-green flood seems to be moving slowly from the horizon. The sound of horse hooves and the roar of the beastmen merge into one. At least 3,000 cavalrymen? Aya, this is giving me a headache. Marguerite frowns. Even though she forced the other party to make a hasty move, the other party's preparations are unexpectedly sufficient. No, it should be said that the other party doesn't care about the sacrifice at all. This is indeed a little hard to accept. The red, orange, and yellow Philosopher's Stones that were used to cast the forbidden spell have already been turned into dust by the backlash of the forbidden spell. The green and cyan Philosopher's Stones that were used to copy the forbidden spell have already depleted their mana. Only the blue and purple Philosopher's Stones that were used as shields still have some mana left. Half of my mana has been depleted, but the other party doesn't care about the exhaustion at all. This is a little difficult to deal with. But when she turns around to take a look, in the midst of the ice and snow, there is a blazing lake of flames. Over there, countless fire phoenixes formed from flames are flying back and forth. The pillar of flames that covers the sky extends all the way to the top of the sky. Obviously, the inheritance is at a crucial moment. There is no possibility of retreating anymore. It is a pity that if it was in my mage tower. Mage, there are no IFS in this world. Number 6, number 7, copy. Number 4, number 5, start recharging. The exact same military formation as the previous 2 times reappears. This time, even the expressionless show is frowning. The opponent's strength is really too strong. The current losses have already exceeded that of attacking any of the underground city. Furthermore, their side is proficient in the aerial knight's surprise attack, and the berserker's desperate charge in the air and ground coordination tactic is completely ineffective. If they are to rely on human lives to fill up the gap, just how long will it take? In the sky, the powerful griffins and manticore are still fighting. But in reality, no one is paying attention to them. The powerful predator magic beasts, in this battlefield, can't even be considered as supporting characters. Scarlet red flames cut through the sky. 2 pitch-black gigantic chunks of meat directly fall to the ground and turn into 2 bodies. Judging from the fragrance of the meat, they are at least 50% cooked. The 2 black dragons seem to be planning to launch a surprise attack on Marguerite from the side. However, just as they entered the attack range of the dragon's breath, a dragon's breath directly roasted them from above. In the sky, the intense battle is not inferior to the one on the ground. It is also a battle of a single person against an army. That gigantic red dragon is facing the entire dragon city. It is also a battle tactic. The 12 young red dragons form 3 battle formations and take turns to go on the battlefield. They use flesh and blood to exhaust the physical strength of the ancient red dragon unveils. However, unlike on the ground, they have already achieved results. The reason? The other immemorial red dragon that was hiding behind her tribesmen and was even larger than unveils was the reason for this. The immemorial red dragon that was laughing sinisterly was the reason. Molly, you little slut, if you have the guts to come up personally, why are you hiding behind your clansmen to launch a sneak attack? You are even more despicable than back then. Little red unveils' right wing is broken, her left eye is already unable to open and her entire body is covered in injuries. Yet, she is still floating in the sky, fighting energetically and roaring angrily. My stupid daughter, you really have muscles in your head. How could you treat the art of war that we red dragons are most proud of as despicable? It looks like I didn't do anything wrong when I chased you out of Dragon City all those years ago. Yes, that shameless ancient dragon is one of the underground autarchs, the Dragon Empress Molly. Little Red has to deal with the close combat of the young red dragons while guarding against Molly's sneak attacks at the same time. It is already difficult for her to be in such a disadvantageous situation. If she wants to do something, For example, to charge up her strength to release a powerful spell, Molly, who knows her well, would definitely interrupt her preemptively. Under such a disadvantageous situation, it is already a miracle that she is able to last until now. At this moment, in order to get rid of the black dragon that ambushed Marguerite, she forcefully spits out dragon's breath. Her neck is then bitten by Molly, who grasped her weakness. Bright red dragon blood even forms a bloody rain on the ground. Facing the allied army of 2 underground autarchs, the 3 heads are already forced into a corner. Hurry up, Adam, if you don't complete the seal and inheritance, we might all die here today. Just as Little Red is unable to hold on any longer, from the direction of Sulphur Mountain City, a silver pillar of light suddenly shoots into the sky. What is going on? This isn't the light of order, Roland. That sly old fox is actually getting serious. Chapter 24. Kill them all. Perhaps, at this moment, my orders are unnecessary. The one charging the fastest, without a doubt, is Shuati, who has the honorary title of Steel Guard. As the head of the Hall of Law Enforcement, the town security can be considered as his direct subordinates. They are the ones who interact with him the most every day. He can even call out the names of every single one of the 800 town security. Now that they are being attacked in front of him, how can he not be angry? How can he not be hateful? Shuati's eyes have already turned white, and the last bit of rationality in his mind has turned into fresh blood. After he made up his mind to go berserk, the image of a good person has completely disappeared. The one charging now isn't the perverted old bull who didn't retaliate even when being chased by the town security, but the mad bull driven by the desire for revenge. Heroic charge. That is the simplest warrior battle technique. It merely catapults the user forward like cannon fodder. However, in the hands of the Steel Guard, it is a death charge that rips through everything. Block it head on. Then he will just crush it without reason. Stab with his spear. Even the sharp enchanted spear is unable to pierce through his steel body. The powerful Blackwater army warriors are as weak as chickens in front of the legendary rank old bull. It seems that using weapons isn't enough to vent his anger. He grabs a pig tribe beastman with each hand, and with a slam of his arms, he turns them into meat paste. Then, he looks for his next target, demonic art. Transform into a frog. An old shaman with a head full of chicken feathers casts his most vicious demonic art on the body of the old bull. However, the Steel Guard just glares at him and the demonic art bounces back to the shaman. Gua gua, a frog that was running around randomly appears on the ground. Then, it is trampled to death by the bull. Iron bloodline, bronze body, silver prestige, gold will, legendary rank. Upon reaching the legendary rank, a strong warrior can form his own soul imprint. With the soul imprint as the core and source of power, it can greatly enhance a certain aspect of his abilities. Heart of Steel is the name of Shuati's soul imprint. He deeply believes that his body is as hard as steel and his heart is as hard as steel. Alright, the side effect is that he is overconfident in his perfect body. He feels that it would be a pity if he doesn't strip naked for the world to see. Thus, he developed the bad habit of stripping naked. We're on the battlefield now, so it's better to be more serious. Let's cut to the chase and get back to business. A gold-tier warrior could use their will to affect the physical body and the world. With this pure buff from the soul imprint, as long as Shuati gathered his own will, coupled with the basic abilities of a legendary tier Justice Knight, he would be an indestructible fortress. Then, breaking a few low-quality weapons and reflecting a few low-level Yarrow arts was nothing. Facing the formation of the Blackwater core, he was like an irresistible meat grinder, slowly but firmly charging forward, assaulting, and crushing, leaving behind a ground of minced meat and broken weapons. Accept the trial of the law. Sinner. Incantation of law. Judgment. Compared to the madly sprinting Shuati, Kevin at least remembered to use the necessary Circle 1 incantation of a Justice Knight. This incantation of law is derived from the Holy Knight's divine art, Detect Evil, but the effect is very different. The divine art, Detect Evil, sounds like it is used to distinguish between good and bad, but if good and bad can be so easily distinguished, then what's the use of police and security officers? Just let the Holy Knight investigate everyone and throw the bad guys into jail, then the world would be at peace. What the divine art, Detect Evil really investigates is the energy within the body and the bloodline of the race. If it is inclined towards chaos, then it would naturally be a red light that represents evil. If it is inclined towards order, then it would be a white light that represents justice, although it isn't reliable, but in a certain sense, it is indeed quite effective. At least the Liches who are filled with death magic and the dark elves with the bloodline of chaos would definitely be glowing red. Normally, they wouldn't do anything good. As for my incantation of law, judgment, according to the law, it checks the source and the memories of the target, judging the actions of the target within an hour. If they are guilty, then it would be a red light. If they are innocent, then it would be a white light. Of course, I also really want to extend the detection time of this incantation of law. That way, our judicial system can save a lot of trouble. But unfortunately, this is the power of the rules of order, an individual can't change it. In front of me, the divine light of judgment falls. Very naturally, all the beast men are glowing red. This way, the power of the subsequent incantation of law can naturally be multiplied by several times. Incantation of law. Silence. In mid-air, the gavel falls. Along with the silver ripples descending, a silent halo disperses. All the shamans find that they are unable to chant their incantations. Following that, all the berserkers find that they are unable to let out a battle cry. This is a level 2 incantation of law used to silence the court. Naturally, it can also shut the mouth of a sinner. Incantation of law, locked evidence of crime, weapon deprivation. This incantation of law is known as the most shameless incantation of the impartial knight, and there is no other. If the opponent is a criminal who is committing a crime, one of the opponent's items will be used as evidence of the crime, temporarily unable to be used. Level 5 incantation, it consumes a lot of magic power. The prerequisite to use it is that the person has already been convicted of a crime, although the duration is extremely short and the target is limited, but just by imagining it, one can imagine that if one's weapon were to be dropped in battle, one's armor would suddenly fall off. Sin-splitting strike. The veteran impartial knight Kevin, how could he miss the opportunity to make his opponent lose their weapon? Kevin's longsword swings. The silver light on the sword is the power of the Codex of Law, and the sinner who is slashed by it will suffer several times the damage. Under that ordinary long sword, the thick skin that the pig tribe beastmen are proud of is as fragile as a piece of paper. With one slash of the knight's sword, the silver light actually turns into a flywheel. He specifically picks the most valuable targets and consecutively beheads several military officers. Similar to the Holy Knight's classic combination of divine incantation and melee combat and a low-level incantation of law with special effects on sinners, is the most common combat style of the impartial knight who is a law enforcer. And Shueti, who has already transformed into a berserker, is obviously an exception. Not only does he not use any incantations or weapons, he actually thinks that his clothes are a hindrance and has already begun to take off his armor. It is a good thing for warriors to be passionate. As long as you are tougher than armor, then it is your freedom to use weapons and equipment. Why can't you run naked on the battlefield? In reality, as a rare legend warrior who purely buffs his physical body, the strength of Shueti's physical body isn't inferior to Adam's by much. To him, there is really no need for normal weapons. After all, being ripped apart by brute force or cleaved by a sharp sword doesn't make much of a difference to the victim. Perhaps, the reason why Shueti's identity hasn't been exposed and his nickname as a battlefield exhibitionist hasn't spread is because all the enemies who have seen the form of a berserker have been crushed by him. What an outstanding cannon fodder. Looking at the charging duo of cannon fodder that has attracted the attention of most of the enemies, I can't help but sigh. The other two mags, Kale and Eliza, reveal a knowing smile at the same time. In the Aishi continent, there is a classic saying that mags look down on others. In their eyes, all the jobs can only be divided into two types, mags and non-mage cannon fodder. Without a doubt, this is another explanation for the supremacy of magic. However, I have to say that this is obviously prejudice. In my eyes, there are three types. Mags, useless cannon fodder and useful cannon fodder. As for Kevin and Ironblock, Shueti's codename, they are undoubtedly the most treasured, classic, collectible cannon fodder. Look, under their charge, those foolish pigs have actually forgotten about us. They have forgotten about the core of the battlefield, the mags. As a fellow mage who pursues the truth, Chaldea's reply is always satisfactory. It is almost the same as mine. Actually, I categorize them according to their ranks. Shueti is a legend rank cannon fodder. If you look at which soul imprint he is placed on, he can be upgraded by a notch. Naturally, he is worthy of being a classic collectible. Kevin, on the other hand, isn't impressive enough. Alright, Eliza, don't look at me like that. I know that it is time to get down to business. Cough, since the cannon fodder has attracted the attention of the enemies and completed their mission, then, let's get rid of them in one go. Then, allow this old man to go first. Incantation of Law, deprivation of personal freedom. This is a single target 4-circle incantation of law. It can only restrict the sinner to a fixed area, unable to move. However, in the hands of a saint rank mage, it becomes a powerful AoE restriction magic. In an instant, a large number of black water soldiers who are glowing in red light are unable to move. What is going on? Let me out. A lone mage is often treated as a cannon. However, in reality, when mags are in a group, especially when they are familiar with one another, they are able to bring out the full potential of a mage. The saint rank Chaldea expends a large amount of magic power to restrict the movement of his opponents. In order to maintain the incantation of law, he is even unable to move himself. This is all so that Eliza and I can easily lock onto our opponents and cast the spell. Since the conditions are so good, then, the spell that we choose now naturally has to bring out the advantage of restricting the movement of our opponents to the fullest. Icicle molding. As a half-demon, Eliza is born with a thick chaos bloodline. Learning the power of law of the origin of order is a strenuous and unrewarding task. Thus, what I teach her is mainly my specialty as the Lord of Yungia, necromancy and ice elemental magic. For an ice mage, creating a few ice sculptures is as easy as flipping one's hand. Ice sculptures do lack killing power, but if the position of the ice sculpture isn't right, alright, I will say it directly. At this moment, under the feet of all the beast men, the icicles are slowly growing. The sharpest of the icicles is aimed right at the roots of the beastmen's descendants. Glancing at the humiliated corpses of the town security on the ground, I secretly wipe away my cold sweat and sigh to myself. Never ever offend a woman. I know that Eliza is truly furious. Perhaps, it is to make the beast men repent for their sins before they die. The icicles aren't growing fast. However, looking at the sweat beads on old Kale's forehead and listening to the curses of the beast men, I feel that there is a need to help them. Supreme magic. Levitation spell. Compared to the 2-circle levitation spell that mags used to jump down from a high place, the 3-circle levitation spell is the upgraded version of it. It allows one to float slightly higher, around 1 to 2 meters. At this moment, after I use the supreme magic technique to turn it into an AoE spell, it is only a 6-circle general arcane spell. Very quickly, all of the beast men in the area are cast with the levitation spell. Then, due to the spell restricting their movement, they can only go up and down. The current me is no longer that semigod mage. Although it is only a 6-circle arcane spell, this Lich doesn't have much magic power, so how can I waste it? Thus, with a snap of my fingers, the effect of the levitation spell is removed. All of the beast men fall down rapidly. Then, the icicles that I have been waiting for a long time head on. How pitiful. I can't even bear to watch. The scene in front of me reminds me of the candid haws that were skewered with bamboo sticks. Then, I made up my mind to never eat this kind of food again. Then, I realized that I don't need to eat food anymore. That was an unnecessary consideration. Demon. Run. Hurry up and run. When half of an army is turned into pork candid haws in front of the other half, no matter how elite the soldiers are, they will probably break down and run for their lives. Naturally, the collapse of the Blackwater soldiers in front of me is within reason. Aren't we going to chase them? No, we just have to force them out of the city. If it was according to my usual habits, I would definitely kill them all. If they were to escape from the city, I would chase after them for 1,000 miles. But now, The reason why I am not chasing them is because I feel uneasy. I feel that something is amiss. To be honest, when I saw the terrible state of the outer city gates and the Blackwater army, my first reaction, other than anger, was shock. Why did they send out the Blackwater army as the guards? If it was just a small group of elite thieves that sneaked in to cause trouble, it could still be explained away. But if it was the guards, then wouldn't it become an obvious act of war? That stupid pig must have water in his head. Does he dare to fall out with Sulphur Mountain City and start an all-out war? Where did he get his backing from? But very quickly, when I realized that I was unable to contact Marguerite, who was outside the city, I could roughly guess what had happened. The Underground Alliance and the Underground Autarch? Looks like HMPH is probably intending to completely fall out with Sulphur Mountain City. I have underestimated them. The attack of half of their army should only be to restrict the internal fighting strength of Sulphur Mountain City. Aren't they afraid of Adam and the others taking revenge? Offending 3 independent semigod experts at once. Cutting the grass without removing the roots is equivalent to seeking death. Then, the Underground Autarch is intending to remove the roots. Since we can't contact Marguerite and the others, they are most likely in trouble, and big trouble at that. Thinking about this, I made up my mind. Let's go back to the court. We will hold a court session. Court session? Are we going to use the codex? Lilith just reported that the situation in the city is still under control. Are we going to use our trump card now? Is it worth it? Of course it is worth it. The situation has changed. Eliza, go and prepare the god equipment and ritual. We need to quell the internal conflict immediately. Perhaps, our great city lord is still waiting for our rescue. Chapter 25. Ever since Goddess Aishi created the world, when Goddess of Order Astria and Goddess of Chaos Cynthia created the first generation of people, the battle between order and chaos became the everlasting theme of this world. The two goddesses who were of similar strength fought until they fell into eternal slumber at the same time. Their remaining creations continued their endless war. The Gold Tribe and Sulphur Tribe died in battle. Then, the Silver Tribe represented by the Moon Elves and the Mercury Tribe represented by the Fallen Giants continued their war of souls. This war started from the creation of the world and was endless. When order overpowered the Chaos realm, it would be a relatively stable era of order. On the other hand, if chaos prevailed, it would be a chaotic era of chaos. Every change represented the rise and fall of countless races. The future 7 purgatories were more or less related to this eternal war. In fact, it was a direct continuation of the eternal war. The second generation of goddesses fell into a deep slumber after the war. Some even said that they had died. Astria's follower god, the god of light, who was also the true god who created holy light, became the core of the third generation of order gods. Of course, just like every person who was fortunate enough to rise to power, very quickly, he made the short-lived mortal races praise the greatness of holy light and forget the name and miracles of the previous generation of order gods. On the side of the Chaos faction, due to their abnormally violent and free nature, they still haven't decided who would be the boss. However, their absolute strength was still slightly higher than the Order faction. After all, in the Chaos faction where the weak are prey to the strong, the weak can't survive. Furthermore, when the first generation of Order citizens, the Angel civilization, had already become a term of history and the remaining angels had become the servants of the new gods, the first generation of Chaos citizens, the Devils, were still reveling in the bottomless abyss. Occasionally, they would even make a living on the surface. Furthermore, in contrast to the 7 main gods of the Order faction, the Chaos faction has 13 main god-level existences. If they were to unite, perhaps only the goddess of chaos Cynthia would reappear. Alright, this was the most basic setting of Aishi's Purgatory. In that game, there were 2 main factions, Order and Chaos. Before every player was born, they had to choose one of them. This choice, unless they deleted their account and restarted, they would never be able to change it. The confrontation and war between the two continued until now. There were wins and losses on both sides. However, most of the time, the Order faction had the upper hand. Well, everyone knows the reason. Since it's the primitive and barbaric law of the jungle, It's impossible for you to always be stronger than me, so why should you be the one to take the top and not me? Alright, the end result was that they were experts in internal strife, and hindered each other in external strife. In the end, they seemed to be incomparably strong, but when they got serious, they were all finished. The sulfur race and gold race are abnormally strong. Even the weakest adult individual is at least gold rank. Their respective kings are definitely not inferior to a true god. Due to their unique characteristics and rich battle experience, chaos creatures of the same rank are always slightly stronger than order creatures. But even so, the wars were still at the same level. More than 90% of the sulfur and gold species died in countless battles. After that, the color dragons and metal dragons saw the danger of extinction and were no longer willing to continue being cannon fodder. They secretly joined together and formed the current dragon species. They left this eternal holy war by themselves, under the insistence of the gods of both sides, in order to continue the war. The high elves imitated their own structure and created the wood elves, moon elves, night elves, silver elves, and other elf races. The titans created the fire giants, cloud giants, and other giant races. Even the angels created the first generation of humans, the mountain clan. These races, whose adult members were at least silver rank, were known as the silver race. Thus, when one side had new blood while the other side was dwindling, the balance of the war tilted. The sulfur faction, who weren't proficient in creation, had their own methods. The demons used their strength, longevity, and knowledge as the price to successfully lure the first generation of humans, the mountain clan, into the chaos faction. They were now known as the inhabitants of the abyss of hell, devils. Of course, the endless bloody battle between the devils and demons for the crown of evil made them hate the choice they made back then. But at that time, it greatly strengthened the strength of the chaos faction. As for the demons who had tasted the sweetness, they succeeded in getting the fallen angels, red dragons, black dragons, fire giants, and trolls to join their faction. Thus, these new races formed the so-called Mercury race and became the mortal enemies of the silver races. The betrayal of the first Homo sapiens, the mountain clan, directly led to the cleansing of the first generation of humans by the order gods, giving rise to the possibility of the birth of the second generation, the current humans. This generation of humans was purely designed to be cannon fodder. Compared to the previous races, their individual strength was extremely weak and their lifespan was extremely short. What the creator wanted were cannon fodder that wouldn't cause much damage even if they betrayed them. But unexpectedly, it was this weak race that changed the situation of the war. Innately weak. This gave them the motivation to pursue strength, research weapons, and magic. They learned martial arts from the beastmen, forging from the dwarfs and giants, and magic from the elves. Short lifespan. This made them cherish their time even more, giving them an endless thirst for knowledge and motivation. Their footprints were all over heaven, hell, and dimension. Furthermore, the iron rule that the stronger a race is, the harder it is for them to reproduce. The reproduction ability of the weak humans is indeed frightening. As long as the basic numbers increase, the humans with great potential wouldn't lack geniuses who could face the gods and demons head-on. After going through countless wars, after the end of the Trolls era, the current human world is still a society dominated by humans. This is the most obvious proof. The powerful existences of the Chaos faction aren't just decorations. They still don't know how to create things, but they know how to modify and distort the existing rules of the world. Thus, the ancient king of humans, an overlord who had been dead for many years, was the first to walk out from his grave. What drives him to move isn't bloodline and strength, but the endless power of death. He is the first undead, as well as the most ancient death god, Ale. Thus, for a long period of time, the undead became the tools of war in the hands of the demons and malevolent gods. The dead mercilessly brandished the blades in their hands towards their kin who were still alive. It must be said that the undead, who are naturally bloodthirsty, yearn to use the souls of the living to fill their emptiness. They aren't afraid of death, and their numbers are endless. They are very handy tools of war. No one is willing to let their own race be used as cannon fodder and tools. The death god, Ale, secretly bestowed the wisdom of the demons to his own race. Although only the undead that are silver rank and above can barely learn to think, it is enough to create the earliest undead lords. The subordinates of the lords are countless subjects, warriors who are not afraid of death and fight for them. Since they aren't afraid of death, why would they accept slavery? Alright, after that, it was natural for the entire race to betray them. Now, with the Shiluor Empire as proof, the undead have become an independent race. In fact, there are often human mags who are afraid of death. In order to live longer, they take the initiative to turn into the undying dead. The core of the undead race, Liches, are also born from this. Order and chaos, the never-ending war. Even the dead are unable to escape from it. The souls of those who believe in the gods of order go to the heaven realm where the gods reside. The strong have the chance to turn into the god's envoy or god's envoy to continue their own battles. The souls of non-believers, believers of malevolent gods and villains, will follow the river Styx to the bottomless abyss and hell. At any time, they might turn into demons or demons and climb ashore. The dimensional battlefield between the bottomless abyss and the heaven realm, the eternal war between the Order faction and the Chaos faction, is a never-ending meat grinder. To the players, this isn't just the history of the past, it is also the main storyline of the future storyline. From the moment you choose your race to enter this world, this endless war and calamity will always be by your side. Aish's 7 calamities. The first 2 calamities are problems that can only be solved by humans. At that time, a silver rank on the surface is already able to become the main fighting force. However, when the 3rd undead calamity and the 4th return of the demons occur, it has already escalated to the point where the gold rank races are directly involved in the war. The gold rank mortals are only high-level cannon fodder. Putting aside the 5th and 6th calamities, the 7th calamity, which is also the final calamity, is the revival of the 2 highest goddesses and the reenactment of the ancient myths. At that time, the semigod realm that I once reached will only be slightly more high-level cannon fodder. At that time, the gods will start a war in the mortal world. The Aishi continent will split apart again and again. One by one, the dimensional gates will open and the powerful otherworldly races will completely turn this world into purgatory. As for whether there is the so-called 8th calamity, when the world is sliced into more than 3,000 pieces, it is no longer important. No wonder the prophets are all insane. After knowing about the apocalyptic future, how could I be willing to accept it? Perhaps, from the moment that I learned about the future calamity, I had already gone mad. I crazily pursued power, crazily massacred, using my cheat system to madly improve myself. Of course, I have also committed countless crimes. Based on my principle that sinners must be judged, I am afraid that the first person to be burned at the stake would be me. But even so, I have no intention of quibbling. I also admit my crimes, but I still have no regrets. Furthermore, I seem to have found a direction to stop all of this and have made many preparations. At this moment, the time that I have been patiently waiting for has probably arrived. The game's main storyline, that the first calamity, Whispers of the Demons, has already arrived not long ago. The start of the main storyline, in the original history, also represents that the players have entered and changed this world. Just like that abnormally realistic advertisement, a real world is waiting for you, the future is yours to control. The 7 calamities are most likely related to those short-sighted and foolish players. The one who opened the seal of the bottomless abyss and allowed the demons to return to the human world was a group of player mercenaries who were blinded by mercenary money. The fuse that caused the calamity of white bones in this world was an invasion initiated by an undead lord. The irresponsible visitors from another world stood for money and equipment, and they viewed the natives as puppets to toy with and squeeze out their remaining value. They turned the disaster with a slim chance of survival into a living purgatory where all lives would be destroyed. Of course, for the sake of this world, those who fought and even gave up their lives, dying repeatedly and even deleting their accounts, were also a group of visitors from another world. And this time, in this real world, there are no players who can control the future. The only one who can control the future is me, the incomplete guardian of bones. I swear to reverse cause and effect, to change fate, to allow all living beings to survive the calamity. Alright, I've said a bunch of nonsense. Everyone is probably tired of looking at the setting and background, So let's talk about something more practical. I've been thinking about how to survive this calamity, to end, at the very least, to stop this endless cycle of the eternal war. Holy light. The holy light that occupied more than 30% of the world's faith became my experimental target. The foolish god of light had indeed achieved his goal and became the most powerful god. But now, due to the influx of too much faith, he had been assimilated by the faith and had lost his personality. He had become a conceptual existence. Difficult to understand. This is the equivalent of an old PC that downloaded all the data on the internet in one go. Then, its CPU exploded, the motherboard burned, the input and output systems were all paralyzed, leaving only the hard disk running. Yep, the god of holy light was the computer that had been destroyed. Right now, the god of holy light was only capable of instinctively maintaining the most basic of cycles. His master had already gone offline. On the other hand, the concept that he represented had become even more powerful now that it had lost its master. The same concept God, there is also the Great Mother Earth and the wise goddess of magic. They are unimaginably strong, but other than providing the power of their believers, they don't even have a concept of themselves, so naturally, they have no possibility of interfering with the world. As long as the people of order believe in the light, they have the right to use the holy light. The teachings of the holy light sounds really high and mighty, but in reality, it is just a proof of mechanically dealing with the requirements. It states that there are two prerequisites to using the power of the holy light. As long as anyone meets the requirements, they can use it. One is the people of order, the other is the people of light. Alright, I have already used my experiments to prove that this is all nonsense. A demon with a human body can also use the holy light. As long as I brainwash him and make him believe that he really believes in the holy light, it is enough to fool this stupid light brand transponder. However, just the holy light is definitely not enough. The holy light is a lower-level concept of order. Its core concept is purification. That is to say, it allows things to proceed normally according to the rules. In that case, those who are born to go against the rules, such as the undead who go against the rules of life and death and the demons who are born as the people of chaos, are naturally its mortal enemies. In reality, the holy light is indeed the mortal enemy of these two types of chaos life forms. So, pursuing the so-called holy light to achieve peaceful coexistence is probably similar to pursuing firearms to achieve world peace. In any case, the end result is to wipe out the enemy completely. But in reality, the long history of Aishi has proven that it is impossible to completely wipe out an entire faction. It is impossible for order and chaos to wipe out each other. A temporary victory will only bring about an even more ferocious retaliation and backlash in the future. Since it is impossible to wipe out the other party, then the only option is to coexist. Coexist with the completely unreasonable creatures of chaos, demons. If I were to say this out loud, I would probably be given the honorary title of Lich Roland, whose head is filled with water. If there is a line that everyone can agree to and follow, that would be great. This was my initial thought. Then, I immediately thought of the international conventions in my previous life. Then, I thought of the legal career that I worked so hard for my entire life in my previous life. Alright, since I am trapped in Sulphur Mountain City and have nothing to do anyway, I might as well give it a try. Thus, dang dang dang, the Supreme Court was established, dang dang dang, the 4 halls of justice were established, dang dang dang, the judicial system was established. So, when my thick notebook filled with laws somehow gained the recognition of the origin of order and became the first god equipment, the power of law was raised to the same level as the concept of holy light. The one who was the most in disbelief was me. After the shock and disbelief, I couldn't help but laugh wildly and feel ecstatic. Then, I laughed, and cried. When I was tired, I laughed again. When I was tired, I cried again. When I was tired, I laughed again. When I was tired, I cried again. Even I couldn't remember how long I went crazy and how long I struggled. Ha ha ha, so it was so simple. It has been 300 years and I have been going around in circles. So, from the very start, the key was on me. That was the first time I saw the possibility of dawn after countless failures. The core of holy light was purification. It was to return all things to their proper order. The core of my power of law was equality. Every life and existence had its own meaning and order. Chaos itself was a type of twisted order. As long as both sides agreed on a boundary and didn't interfere with each other, they would be able to coexist. This line is the foundation of the power of law. Those who cross the line will be punished or even killed. No matter what their identity is, how strong they are, or what race they are from. Under the scales of law, all beings are equal. At the very beginning, the power of law is like the prototype of the modern law, blood vengeance. It is crude, vicious, and hard to tame. It harms others but harms oneself. As an undead, as long as I use it, I will harm myself. Fortunately, as long as my phylactery isn't damaged, it is just a matter of reviving. Anyway, I am already used to dying. After adding more laws and revising the principles, the current power of law is evolving more and more towards the equality codex that I hope for. As long as the enforcer gives up his personal identity and decides to fight for justice and fairness, he will be able to use the power of law. This is a simple principle that I wrote based on the teachings of the Holy Light. However, it is still far from the day when it can be realized. As a newly born concept, the power of law is still very weak. It still needs the nourishment of faith to grow. Right now, only in Sulphur Mountain City, where the power of law is the densest, within the range of the God equipment origin of Codex, can my power of law be equivalent to the concept of holy light. After all, there is no God of law. But, there will be, just like what I said when I teased the perverted town security, undead amusement park, there will be a God of law and the power of law that is recognized by the entire world. As long as my scheme. It is better to use the term plan. If it can be realized on time, everything that should be there will be there. There will be a God of law. Enforcers who wield the power of law will spread across the entire world. Every city will establish a fair legal system. There will be. I swear on my phylactery. This time, I am not the only one foolishly trying to change the history. This time, we, all of us who believe in the law, will become the writers of the new history. When that fool Adam asked me if it is worth it to sacrifice so much for a vague goal, my answer was the same from start to finish. Of course it is worth it. My ambition is the sea of stars. One day, my power of law will surpass the boring power of holy light. Yes, without a doubt, I am trying to steal from the holy light. Perhaps, I should be glad that the God of holy light has already become a god without any concept of self. Otherwise, if I were to suddenly be destroyed by a ray of light of heaven's wrath, that would be my inevitable ending. But now, those foolish holy knight are overjoyed that the source of order has gained a new subordinate power and that the order faction is getting stronger. They even sent their own specialists here to learn from me. Let me go to a corner and laugh. When the power of law becomes the mainstream and the legal system is established in the entire continent, is there still a need for the Holy Church, who keeps repeating the old creed, to exist? Is this the legendary seeking one's own death? This reminded me of the other world, the priests of the theological seminary, who eventually became the founders of modern science, laying the final path for theism. Sure enough, history is similar. The first gravediggers were all on the same side. When they lose their jobs, in return, I will open up the legal system and provide holy knight to become a justice knight, priest to become a judge and holy mage to become a law incantationer. I should be able to earn a lot of money. Lord, the preparations are ready. Eliza's voice interrupts my thoughts. That is the first hall of the Supreme Court, as well as the largest courtroom. It can accommodate 1,000 people, but due to it being too big, the maintenance fees are too high, so I have only used it a few times. Now, it is time for the power of law to truly display its miracles. From now on, with Sulphur Mountain City as the starting point, the power of law will truly spread to every corner of this world. The low voice is just narrating, but it reverberates in the hall. In the end, it becomes an ancient and heavy resonance, as though it is the echo of history, as though it is the destined future. Currently, I am sitting in the courtroom, but there is no one in the spectator's seat. To my left is the strongest person in the judicial system, Judge Kale. Dia. To my right is the stern-faced Shueti, who is also a legend. Eliza carefully passes an old yellowish thick book over. That old book, which looks as though it would fall apart with a breeze, is the highest god equipment of the power of law, the origin of Codex. Old companion, ever since you leveled up to a god equipment, I have never used you again. Caressing that familiar cover, I can't help but sigh. Looking around, Kayla and Shueti nod their heads, indicating that they are prepared. Thus, I speak. I, Supreme Judge Wumianzi. I, First Judge Kale. Dia. I, Second Judge Shueti. Form the collegiate court. Following our proclamation, the silver light of law descended like starlight, covering the entire world in a dazzling silver light. In the next second, we were no longer in that dilapidated courtroom, but in an empty void. Kayla. After receiving the god equipment, the origin of Codex, the saint-rank great law incantator Kale. Dia strokes the long beard that he is proud of and says solemnly, Star Court. The soul imprint of a legend-rank expert allows them to display the brilliance of their soul to the world, widening the gap between them and a gold-rank expert. Then, what does a saint-rank expert have to widen the gap between them and a normal legend-rank expert? It's a world. A saint-rank expert has their own soul world, turning the ideal world in their heart into reality. In the world that they created, they are able to exert 300% of their strength. Very quickly, with the help of the origin of Codex, Kayla completes his own soul world. It is a courtroom made of starlight. There is a seat for the judge, the defendant's seat, the plaintiff's seat, everything that a courtroom should have is there. In this courtroom, after all violence is rendered useless, no lies can be spouted. The only thing that can be relied on is the truth and the explanation of the law. At this moment, the empty spectator stand is filled with human figures formed from starlight. Ancient heroes who have turned into star spirits are invited to witness the trial of the miracle. But, different from the ordinary spectators, they will judge based on the justice that they are praised by the world. If the verdict is unfair, they will step in to end the trial. If it is a fair trial, they won't cherish their applause. First, the first crime, the crime of escaping from prison. The gavel falls and countless stars are born. The defendant's seat is filled with phantoms and the fugitives in Sulphur Mountain City are in a daze. Their eyes are blank and their limbs are powerless. They can only stand there blankly, as though their souls have left them. But in reality, their souls are indeed brought to this courtroom filled with starlight. Why am I here? Where is this place? Facing the noisy souls, I knock the gavel lightly. Incantation of law. Silence. Then, in the courtroom, only Shueti's soft chanting of an incantation can be heard. In this courtroom, the effects and consumption of incantations of law are greatly increased. Even though it is just a first-tier incantation of law, he has already been chanting it for 30 seconds. Incantation of law, judgment. When Shueti activates the incantation of law, all of the souls radiate a blinding red light. On their foreheads, there is a phantom which is displaying their crimes. How they attacked the prison guards, how they escaped, how they killed the patrol squad that blocked their way, how they assaulted the ordinary citizens along the way. 147 innocent deaths, estimated loss of 3.62 million gold coins. The star spirits at the spectator stand have already started to shout angrily. To these ancient heroes, harming civilians for no reason is the shame of the strong. It is the most unacceptable crime. Quite a few heroes even follow their habits and make a thumbs-down gesture. Death penalty. Death penalty. At this moment, all of the scenes have turned to the last scene. It is an obsidian stone tablet at the entrance of Sulphur Mountain City Prison. On it, there is a law written by me. Sulphur Mountain City Penal Code, Rule 97, escapees shall be hanged. My gavel fell with it. 1461 defendants are found guilty of escaping from prison. The court pronounces the verdict. Death penalty. Hanged. Executed immediately. In the next second, all of the souls return to their bodies. When they are sweating profusely that it was just a nightmare, they didn't realize that their necks are getting harder and harder to breathe. Then, with a crisp sound, their heads are pulled up by an invisible rope. Only their legs are able to kick wildly. Even though they crazily scratch their necks to the point that their necks are full of wounds, they are still unable to touch the invisible rope. After a few seconds of powerless struggle, Their legs droops down weakly. After ending the first sentence, I take in a deep breath. The execution of the death penalty is complete. The second crime. The crime of betraying the city. The process is the same as before, just that this time, the ones who come are the remaining councillors who colluded with other underground cities, the ruffians who took advantage of the chaos and were stained with blood, etc. Death penalty. Beheading. As the gavel falls, thousands of heads fall to the ground. Seeing the sinners who are committing crimes suddenly die, some of the citizens have already started to kneel down to thank the god. The third crime, the crime of war, the crime of invading. This time, as my gavel falls, my vision keeps shifting. Finally, I arrive at the faraway battlefield, the depths of the Sulphur Mountain range which has already turned into a world of ice. Both sides on the battlefield don't seem to notice the arrival of the Court of Stars. Only Marguerite and the Beastman chief vaguely raise their heads to look in my direction. It is normal for Marguerite, who has stepped into the realm of semigod, to feel something. That Beastman. Looks like he isn't a normal saint rank. But at this moment, the arrow is already narked on the bowstring and it has no choice but to be released. I remind the court that since this crime is happening now and the invasion is ongoing, we should immediately carry out the sentence. To reduce the losses of the victims. Color's suggestion is reasonable and legal. Furthermore, it can save up on the almost depleted power of the codex, so why would I reject it? Agreed, simplified procedure, immediately carry out. This area is under the jurisdiction of Sulphur Mountain City. The invaders are the Underground Alliance Army while the victims are Sulphur Mountain City. The invaders are the Underground Alliance Army and the victims are Sulphur Mountain City. The crime of invading is confirmed. According to the law, death penalty, death penalty, death penalty. The three judges come to the same conclusion and the spectators are clamoring for death penalty. Thus, the verdict of the court takes effect immediately. Thus, the next moment, on the ground, no matter if it is the powerful Beastman officers or the battle-hardened Beastman veterans, they are labeled as sinners. Then, they silently bleed from their 7 orifices and silently fall to the ground dead. The eyes of the black dragon and red dragon in midair roll back and they fall to the ground dead. The powerful warriors mysteriously die one after another and the battlefield falls into a strange silence. Even the wise Marguerite is stunned upon seeing this situation. The previously bustling battlefield quiets down in the blink of an eye after the verdict is issued. The ground is filled with the corpses of the invaders. At this moment, the Underground Alliance army is almost completely wiped out. The only exception might be the Dragon Empress who is hovering in the sky. When she noticed that the situation isn't right, the strongest dragon in the underground world abandons her comrades and the battlefield without hesitation, turning around to escape. From the start, I didn't include the semigod Dragon Empress in the scope of the trial. The semigod is too strong. With Kale's ability, even with the support of the god equipment, it is impossible for him to judge her. If I were to forcefully judge her, this soul world would disintegrate immediately. If only I was at my peak condition. I shake my head. Just like Marguerite's mantra, hypotheticals are meaningless. If only is the excuse of the weak to comfort themselves. It is better for me to focus my attention on the present. At this moment, the trial has already ended and the star spirits have already dispersed. With a final glance, I actually see the Beastman sovereign who should have died standing up once again, glaring at me fiercely. His beastly eyes are filled with bone-piercing hatred. Dark green flames are burning furiously. As expected of a demon? And a noble at that. Looks like I can't catch him. I am familiar with those flames. Those are the chaos flames that originate from hell. Only a great demon with a noble bloodline can wield them. As expected, in the next second, Shoao. Nuya's figure disappears in a cloud of black smoke. On our side, the disintegration of the soul world has already reached its final stage. Lord, looks like I have to apply for a 2-month-long leave from you. After saying those words, the exhausted old Kale falls to the ground and faints. You've worked hard. After getting Shueti to settle Kale down, I glance helplessly at the origin of Codex which has already turned dull and yellow. Looks like after exhausting myself to such an extent, The god equipment's leave will be even longer. However, looking at the city area which is starting to regain its peace, the survivors who are thankful for the miracle and the citizens who are rushing back and forth to inform one another of their safety, I feel that everything is worth it. Finally, I drop the gavel lightly. The trial is over. The court is now closed. Chapter 26. 15 years ago, I was still studying hard in the low-level warrior academy. I was the pride of my parents and teachers. I was the how can someone else's child be so outstanding model in front of the villagers. I've mastered more than 10 basic combat skills at the tender age of 10. I've even successfully entered Iron level. I'm known as the pride of the academy, the future hero. I've always been surrounded by my adorable juniors who admire me. I'd walk around the academy and accidentally reveal my genius, the genius from Class B. He just mastered continuous counterattack, right? If he worked hard for another 10 years, he might reach half of my standard. I would casually comment on those idiots with no talent, and then enjoy the looks and praises of those cute junior sisters. I thought that those days would last forever. When I grew up, I would become a hero and marry a fair, rich, and beautiful woman. Until that day. Talent in divine arts. Acceptance letter from Holy Light Academy. To become a glorious holy knight. I'll go. At that time, I had been longing to become a shining holy knight for a long time. When I received the acceptance letter, I was overjoyed and ignored the worry of my parents. A glorious holy knight. It seems glorious, but in reality, it's just the beginning of a nightmare. Graduation is equivalent to unemployment. How is that possible? I'm the genius knight of the Holy Knight Academy. Look at my holy light. Look at my glorious charge. I'm sorry, we are all devout clergymen. What we need are talents who can preach and not thugs who fight. Our department has 12 people and we are already overstaffed to 24 people. We are all graduates of the Holy Knight Academy. Logically speaking, we should be your seniors. Why should we give up our positions to you? I'll become a freelance adventurer, right? I'm sorry, as a clergyman who is blessed by the Holy Light, you have the obligation to repay the Church of Holy Light for nurturing you. The Seventh Holy Church lacks a volunteer to clean the altar and toilet. However, volunteers don't have a salary. The Holy Light will repay your efforts. Don't worry, it won't take long. 3 years will pass quickly. I still remember the look in the old priest's eyes when he turned his head. Kid, you're new, right? I've been here for 20 years and only became a regular one when my hair turned white. You're just an arrogant brat. I'll be a freelance adventurer, that's fine, right? Of course I could, but I didn't expect that to be the beginning of the nightmare. 3 years later, I finally became a freelance adventurer. Why 3 years later? If he didn't want to be hunted down by the Holy Church, how could he skip 3 years of voluntary service? Alright then, seeing that my juniors have already become veterans and the core of the adventurer team, while sighing, I wasn't discouraged at all. I was confident that with my silver rank strength, I would soon become a star in everyone's eyes. But soon, the cruel reality hit me in the head. Don't want it. Why? I, a silver-ranked Saint Knight, am willing to become a member of a group of bronze-ranked soldiers. You should be happy. Could it be, because I'm a holy knight? The thief nodded. A holy knight talks too much nonsense and has too many rules. Can you tolerate having undead and half-demons as your teammates? Can you communicate with the grey organizations? Can you keep your mouth shut when it comes to distributing the spoils of war? We adventurers often have to take on dirty jobs. Can you guarantee that you won't talk nonsense during the adventure and will listen to orders obediently? Of course not. The Holy Church's teachings clearly stated that all lost items should be returned to their original owners. If the original owners couldn't be found, they should be handed over to the public. How could they be privately distributed as spoils of war? As for undead and half-demons, evil chaos, we are irreconcilable enemies with you. Alright then. Since you don't want me to join your adventurer team, I'll form my own team. Forming a team went smoothly. The Adventurers Guild and taverns were filled with holy knight and priests who couldn't find a team. Soon, our Land of Light party successfully began our journey. But What's with not being able to receive payment? Isn't that just waiting to starve to death? Didn't your teacher teach you when you came out for an adventure? We're knight who serves the holy light and the public. The adventurers of the holy job class can only be considered as traveling to accumulate experience. Helping the people in trouble is our duty. Since it's our duty, how can we receive payment? If I can't earn money, why should I be an adventurer? Do I intend to starve to death? That senior smiled mysteriously. He indeed had an idea. This was also the old method that prevented holy knight adventurers from starving to death. Originally, we indeed couldn't receive payment. But if this was a donation to the Holy Church, we could keep a third of it as our own repayment. But, since it's a donation, I naturally can't complain about the amount. But for killing an ogre tribe, I only get 1 copper. That's only enough to buy 2 pieces of black bread. It's not even enough for me to buy medicine. Right, I still have to pay 2/3 of the copper to the church. That's already considered good. You haven't met a goblin's commission. That's the most troublesome part. Tchem. A donation can't be calculated by how much it is, nor can it be calculated by whether or not you donate and what you donate. If you meet a stingy goblin, it's still a good thing that you don't donate. Even if you donate a rock that weighs half a ton, you still have to carry it back, cut it into 3 pieces, and hand over 2 pieces. As a senior, let me remind you, if the goblin really gives you a good engineering tool, it would be a violation of the Holy Church's teachings. You should throw it away immediately. Right, you also have to be careful of the murlocs. Previously, when I helped the murlocs clean up the coastline, the murlocs donated a lot of smelly muddy fish. On such a hot day, they started to stink. That stench could be smelled from 10 miles away. I had to bathe under the waterfall for 3 days. Even now, I still remember the look of disdain on the priest lady's face when I received the donation. It was as though she was looking at a dirty thing. The priest companion's words might be funny, but I couldn't bring myself to laugh. Instead, I felt like crying. There are also the half-goat people. What a scam. Those stingy things actually used wool as payment, and it's even Lungans. Can you imagine the feeling of grabbing a handful of wool in each hand and counting it every few steps to prevent missing a few strands and not being able to hand them in? There are also the same kind as the Holy Knight. Everyone is so poor, but there is no need to scam one another. That time, I met one. Very quickly, the consultation turned into a grumbling session among my companions. As for me, I felt more and more despair about my future career as a Holy Knight. At the very least, the Holy Knight shines with a golden luster. He is very popular with women. But very quickly, reality smacked me in the face once more. Do you have a house? Do you have a mount? Do you have any savings? I lived in a public dormitory and the place was filled with sweaty men. Naturally, I couldn't use them for marriage. I did have a mount given to me by the church, but how could I afford to raise a war horse by myself? So, I stayed with the church and could only ride it during war. At that time, during the war, the government would reimburse me for the fodder. As for my savings, hey. Hello, sister. Goodbye, sister. After several setbacks, I finally met an innocent and cute girl. She didn't mind my poor conditions and was willing to date me. Ah, she is so beautiful and kind. She is like my goddess. What was strange was that, at most, we held hands and took a walk together. She always rejected me when I tried to go deeper into our relationship. At that time, I felt that it was strange, but I tried my best to bear with it. After all, she was so pure. But 5 years passed and I was already 30 years old. I couldn't bear it anymore, so I braced myself and asked her, isn't the Holy Knight the Knight of God? Do you have to abstain from sex for the rest of your life? The heck? We are Holy Knight, not monks. A small number of warrior monks who have sworn to abstain from sex will abstain from women for the rest of their lives. I spent a lot of effort to get her to understand the difference between warrior monks and Holy Knight. But, what followed was a despairing reply. I'm sorry. I only looked for you because I want to date you purely in the spirit of love. I can't promise you that. Can we still be friends in the future? Friends? Friends your head. I am already 30 years old. My classmates already have a dozen kids. That night, in the dormitory full of smelly men, I cried my heart out. My colleagues, however, quietly sat beside me, giving me comfort. Do you know Alu? That genius holy knight from Luca City? I thought of that winner in life. His girlfriend was beautiful and rich. Why are you mentioning him? Do you think that I am not sad enough? He has fallen and has already turned into a black knight who is a minion of chaos. His Ms. Perfect girlfriend is a demon. She only approached him in order to make him fall. How many times has it been? Before this, many people in the church had their suspicions. Why would such a good woman approach a holy knight? They gave him a warning, but he didn't believe it. No, he probably knew it himself. It was just that he was deceiving himself so that he could enjoy his blissful life a little longer. Everyone is already numb. The women who approach them on their own will usually be rejected. Those who approach them on their own are basically problematic. The teachings of the Holy Church also forbids us from spending money to solve our physiological problems. Even solving it on our own is an evil action that is forbidden. We are humans. We are not beast. 2 days ago, the relationship between two West Mountain Holy Knight was exposed and they were expelled from the church. They are my comrades and I even sent them off. However, from the looks of it, they seem to be very happy that they could be together in the future. But they are all men. So they are all normal people who like women. If we hold it in for too long, something might really happen. There are more and more gays in the church. Actually, I am starting to think that men can barely accept it. Actually, me too. Why don't we give it a try? Ever since the sudden appearance of the speed dating couple that day, I have lost all hope and lived like a walking corpse. You want to leave the holy church? Not to be a holy knight. Firstly, you don't have any other skills to support your family. Secondly, you are getting old and starting over is easier said than done. The only seamless job change is the Black Knight. Are you sure you want to give it a try? When I lost all hope in life and was sent to the dangerous underground world, I didn't reject it. So what if it was dangerous? At least I could stay away from the gaze around me, but here, the turning point of my life suddenly came. Nanxiang Law Academy. Recruiting students for short-term training and recommending jobs. Holy Knight is admitted without an examination. Is this for real? Let's give it a try. Anyway, it can't be any worse than this. I entered Nanxiang with the mentality of a fluke. After all, I am getting old and I learn things slowly. But soon, I discovered that the power of law that they taught me was actually quite similar to my own power of holy light. The silver light of law was also a low-level concept of the source of order, just like holy light. Many techniques and abilities could be easily changed, and I learned them incredibly quickly. Furthermore, they are really taking on jobs. No, it isn't taking on jobs. It is because I haven't graduated yet and I, this old fellow, am actually being fought over by more than a dozen employers. Public security officers, police, judges, and other judicial personnel are all prominent figures of the upper echelons of society. To think that a useless old fellow like me would also have a day where a withered tree comes back to life. We don't have annoying churches or gods to serve. We believe in the code of law and uphold justice and fairness. But, we are also humans and we need to eat too. We are from the Nanxiang Academy, so it is easy for us to deal with criminals and evilders. Even if we don't become public security officers, we can easily trust all kinds of security work. Furthermore, as a member of the Order faction, a just knight would definitely not commit crimes. They would strictly keep their vows and secrets and gain the trust of their employers. Thus, promotions are easy for us. Back then, my teacher spoke on the stage generously, but I, who had gone through too much, didn't really believe him. But after that, everything changed. Just like what that teacher said, after graduation, I worked at a large merchant association. Every month, I only had to work at the front desk for 20 days to chase away those troublemakers and maintain public security. My monthly salary was actually 10,000 gold coins. 10,000 gold coins, that is more than 200 times that of a holy knight. Furthermore, I don't have to be exposed to the wind and rain and I don't have to risk my life. What? You are saying that a holy knight can do that? Fool, A holy knight is a knight who serves the gods and the holy light. How can he be hired? Furthermore, very quickly, after saving up to buy a house, I found my beloved. I even bought a cute little dragon horse which has the bloodline of a red dragon. It can travel 1,000 miles in a day and it can even spit fire to injure people. I am finally a knight and not a foot soldier who left my mount with the church. A while ago, I told the latest news to my comrades from the past and they actually came over. Now, everyone has graduated from Nanxiang. Some of them became a city guard officer, some became a town security officer, some became a judge. Those two gay holy knight, after earning money, actually became their own boss, married a wife and had a son. Brother holy knight, come and become a just knight. Not only will you be able to retain all of your strength, everyone will still be fighting for order. The Holy Church will also be happy to see everyone changing jobs. After all, they don't have much funds to support you anymore. Which school is the best in learning the power of order? Look for Nanxiang in the underground Sulphur Mountain. First, learn the skills and pay the fees. Those who know how to use holy light are exempted from the test and the first month's salary will be the tuition fee. There is no fee for the month of trial. The slogan of our Nanxiang is to study hard, work hard, get promoted and get a raise, marry a Ms. Perfect. Mom won't have to worry about me not finding a job anymore. I can also become a big boss. This is just a slogan. You are still worried about not being able to find a job. Let me do the math for you. Every city needs police and security officers. Every company needs security personnel. Every government needs a judicial system. This is a huge job opportunity. You, the pioneer of the law, the prince of the times, are still worried about not being able to find a job. Come to Nanxiang, I guarantee that you will be able to learn. Graduating from the Holy Church is equivalent to losing your job. In our Nanxiang, even before graduating, you can already find a job. These are the contents of a flyer. The person who signed it is Sulphur Mountain City's Supreme Court's Supreme Judge Wu Mianzi. Hey, aren't you going too far? The Archbishop of Holy Light, Old Bill, is said to have fainted on the spot after seeing the flyer and almost died from a brain hemorrhage. Yes, I am trying to poach the Holy Church's people and I am trying to do it openly. Of course, he would vomit blood. Even though the flyer is just a promotional article written by me, it is all true and trustworthy. Furthermore, all of them are the sore points of the Holy Church and the Holy Church. After all, I was once a holy knight and many of them were based on real people. An inexplicable heartache resonates with me and I can't help but think to myself, luckily, I am no longer an unlucky holy knight. At this moment, facing Adam's question about whether I am going too far, I smile. What is there to go too far about? When I personally passed the flyer to the town security, they were overjoyed. Of course they were overjoyed. In the past, I didn't allow them to fully integrate into the judicial system. Now that I am allowing them to train in the power of law, this is equivalent to my judicial system and Sulphur Mountain City completely accepting them. They have already used their blood and hard work to prove their loyalty. If I were to reject them, it would be too heartless of me. You want the town security's Holy Knight Squad to be changed into the Law Knight Squad? You haven't told this news to Old Bill yet. I am afraid that he won't be able to hold on. I told you, I sent someone to report it directly. Lord. You vomited blood again. This is already the 20th time this month. The sky wants to rain and the mother wants to get married. I can't control it anymore. Let's just return to the surface world. Archbishop, it's bad. Many holy knight and priests saw the flyer and all of them said that they want to go to Nanxiang. We couldn't even stop them. The Archbishop of Holy Light continues to vomit blood. Hearing Eliza's report on how the Archbishop was first shocked when he found out that the town security had collectively changed their faith, then he vomited blood. In the end, he even put on a farce. I smiled gleefully. You old brat, I want you to preserve your strength during the crisis and even preach while the people are in a state of panic after the war. Do you think that a tiger is a sick cat if it doesn't eat humans? You deserve it. Chapter 27. Time flies. The years are like a song. Alright, not too long, I just wanted to use these 2 words. Actually, in just 2 days, Sulphur Mountain City has already regained its peace. On that day, when all the fugitives and villains who took advantage of the situation were judged, or directly hung in the air by invisible ropes, or simply beheaded in an instant, those villains who had not yet touched the bottom line, or were about to touch the bottom line, found that they had been placed on the invisible guillotine, and immediately stopped their steps of committing crimes. The chaos didn't last for long. When the enemies were cleared, the judges of the 4 halls and 1 courtyard came to maintain order, and very quickly, Sulphur Mountain City regained its usual order. On the other hand, the gigantic red dragon, whose body was covered with wounds from the great battle, glided across half of the city and landed heavily in the Holy Light District. When the news that the guardian god of Sulphur Mountain City, the ancient red dragon Mesus, was severely injured to the point that she needed over 100 holy knights and priests to treat her, the 3 heads of the city watched by the side and took the opportunity to get rid of the dissidents naturally fell apart. On the contrary, under the manipulation of some people, the news of the 3 heads fighting the 2 underground autarchs and Mesus being heavily injured as a result spread all over the city. Of course, the true reason behind the fire elemental god's seal wouldn't be revealed. On the surface, the reason for the battle was still the usual siege of the underground city. The existence of a powerful foreign enemy, an even more powerful guardian, almost dying, but relying on the guardian's desperate efforts to survive the calamity, the joy, the pain, and the gratitude. When these conditions and these complex emotions were all present, this city of many different races became even more united during the Calamity Week. If one really wanted to find something different, it would be that tomatoes and rotten eggs were all sold out. The reason? The betrayal of the Parliament was exposed, and those Parliament members who were sentenced to death by the miracle of judgment was the best proof. Now, the main door of the Parliament was covered in tomatoes and rotten eggs, and all the windows were broken. If a few slightly famous Parliament members went out, if they didn't want to leave cleanly and come back with a colourful face, then it would be best to bring a bodyguard and a door to attract the firepower. There were more than 300 casualties in this catastrophe, but the dead had passed away and the murderers had been executed. The victims and their families now had a target to vent their resentment. The fruit stalls in front of the Parliament had been sold out, and the society was harmonious. It was a cause for celebration, a cause for celebration. In fact, at the entrance of the Parliament, there were already businessmen who smelled a business opportunity. Are you still using the original tomatoes and rotten eggs? Out of date. Gnome Alchemy's special stink bomb, 3 gold coins for 1. The stench is strong and will last for a long time. Gnome Color Bomb, 2 gold coins for 1. 13 colors can be chosen randomly, and each one comes with a color card. Collecting a set will result in a gnome engineering chick. Unlike the gnomes, our gnomish engineering is of high quality and reliable. It will never explode, never explode. Gnome Smoke Bomb. Gnome Bomb number 1 to number 7 had guaranteed power and would not kill anyone. It was a must-have item for revenge. Moreover, it was cheap. Only half as good as that sissy gnome. 1 gold coin for 1. Enough, Rovy gold coin of the Hall of Trials. I've tolerated you for too long. You can insult me, but you can't insult the crystallization of wisdom of the gnome tribe. Sissy Millhouse Deathstorm from the King's Hall. You were the one who hurt me first. Do you gnomes have the cheek to insult our gnome engineering? Yes, your things won't explode, but the additional effects are scarier than an explosion. Do you dare to pat your chest and say that you weren't thrown into the air by your own gnome teleportation device? Didn't you get electrocuted by the gnome electric net? Didn't you get shrunk by the gnome death ray? Your gnome engineering is just like your name, Deathstorm. Professional at courting death. It's Mana Storm, Mana Storm. Hearing that, the gnome with the body of a child was enraged. Let me have a taste of this. He took out an engineering tool that looked like a toy gun and aimed it at Rovy and pulled the trigger. Then, cluck 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 cluck. An anxious chick appeared on the spot, and the poultryizer fell on the ground. Ha ha ha. I told you that your sissy gnome stuff is not reliable at all. Pointing at the chick, Rovy laughed maniacally. He took out 3 small silver balls from his pocket and played a ball-tossing game like a clown. Playing with the bombs with his bare hands, but there was no trace of fear. His hands did not tremble in the slightest. Rovi displayed the unique courage of the gnome tribe to the audience. Look at our miraculous gnome engineering. We never deny the unpredictability of magical engineering. However, as long as our intelligent gnomes continue to research and pass it down from generation to generation, gnome engineering will definitely become more and more advanced. Even if my father and my grandfather die in an accident, I will continue. Furthermore, I believe that even if I fail, for the future of gnome engineering, my son and grandson will continue to work hard. Ignoring the attacks of the angry chick, Rovi raised his head and spoke loudly, as though he was ready to sacrifice himself at any time. The gnome's spirit of sacrificing themselves for engineering won the audience's cheers and applause. Well said. There were even people who wanted to buy Ro's engineering supplies, but Ro continued to speak. However, Rovi continued, when my grandfather died, he only created a 13-meter hole. My father created a 30-meter hole. When I die, I will definitely create a 100-meter hole. We, the Gold Coin Tribe, will definitely research a bomb that can destroy a city. Alright, the gnome who immediately revealed his true form scared off all the buyers. The audience also took a big step back. Fortunately, they retreated. Ah, what is this twisted piece of copper? The ferocious attack of the chick finally attracted his attention. Rovi looked at the copper piece that fell from his clothes and revealed a pondering expression. Then, he started sweating profusely. The safety screw. Peng. 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 This is just a small failure. I won't give up. I will be back. Alright, after displaying the courage of the gnome tribe, he displayed the daily methods of the gnome tribe to court death. Now, after 3 consecutive explosions, our gnome engineering merchant flew up into the sky with black smoke. He flew straight up into the sky, but judging from his energetic roar, this was just the beginning. Behind the crowd, I witnessed this farce. Then, I turned my head and said to Eliza, now that the situation in the city isn't stable, they can't do as they please. Record this down, the Supreme Court Executive Yuan's order, next month will be Engineering Crackdown Month. Town security and court hall, get into action. Find a reason to throw these troublemaking dwarfs into detention for a month to reflect on themselves. As long as they are master engineers, arrest them before searching them. There won't be any mistakes. What if we arrest the wrong person? I will apologize to them personally, alright? Don't worry, just like how there isn't a man who doesn't cheat, there isn't a gnome who doesn't explode and a dwarf who doesn't court death. Secondly, are the Bayar brothers still in detention? Yes, they still have 3 more days before their detention. Receiving a positive answer, I nodded my head in satisfaction. Tomorrow, send them some engineering components. They definitely won't be able to resist the urge to create explosions in the detention. Then, we will have a reason to lock them up for another month. With the 2 Sulphur Mountain City's top explosive maniacs not fooling around outside, the troublesome engineering month will be much easier without a leader. After saying that, I turned around and left. The City Lord's mansion wasn't too far away, but looking at the black magic storm on the ground, I stopped. I almost forgot. Thirdly, after Death Courting Storm recovers from his fried chicken chop state, tell him and Ro, your 2 months of salary is gone. I don't care what you do in private, but the next time you say that you are a member of the Supreme Court and ruin the reputation of the Supreme Court, I will. At this point, I paused. These dwarfs were born with astonishing courage. Explosions and space travel were common to them, so what kind of punishment could scare them? I couldn't help but feel a little troubled. However, Eliza spoke beside my ear. Then, let the 2 of them exchange all of their engineering tools and finished products. Let the gnome engineers use the dwarf engineering tools and let the dwarf use the gnome tools. Force them to create 10 of each other's engineering tools. Looking at this cold face and hearing this melodious voice, I couldn't help but be stunned. Forcing them to use it is worse than killing them. Gnome engineering and dwarf engineering might seem similar, but in reality, from the principles and systems, they are completely different. 10. They might have to build for a lifetime. They even have to use the tools that they hate the most to research the theories that they hate the most. What torture. But I gave her a thumbs up. Good idea, It is becoming more and more like me. Cough, back to the main topic. The reason why I chose to walk to the City Lord's residence was because I wanted to see how Sulphur Mountain City was recovering after the storm. Now that I saw that there was still time for a farce, I felt gratified. Alright, as the mastermind behind the scenes, I was quite satisfied with the intelligence-gathering ability of the Observer and the Sulphur Mountain City Thief Guild. At least, on the surface, nothing had changed. Yes, it was just on the surface. After the battle, the two underground autarchs worked together and only the autarchs managed to escape. The entire army was wiped out. How could there not be any changes to such explosive news? Let's get straight to the point. You set up the South Ascension Law Academy and poached people from the Holy Church. In an instant, you expanded the law system by more than 3 times. What do you intend to do? Little Red was still recuperating from her injuries and didn't come. In the City Lord's residence, Marguerite and Adam were already chatting and drinking tea. Of course, they were also casually sorting out their recent gains. But the moment I sat down, Marguerite started to make things difficult for me. Hee, those little lasses fought to the death this time and risked their lives to protect the citizens. I admire them a lot. I just want them to completely integrate into the legal system. This has been their hope for many years. Don't tell me that you don't know. I lifted the bone knife and carefully carved the black wooden staff in my hands. After the trial ended, I started to be obsessed with wood carving. This is a technical job and I can't afford to be distracted. Truth. It's too troublesome, I don't want to say it. Marguerite shook her head and sat back down. The Lich was always scheming, but since he didn't want to say it, it was impossible to get it out no matter what. Guess it. This fellow's thoughts were abnormally secretive. Many times, he was obviously doing something wrong, but in the future, it would become a masterstroke. If he really intended to do something secretly, even the saint who witnessed the whole process wouldn't be able to guess it. Marguerite had once asked him this question, but she had received an inexplicable answer. Your way of thinking is too direct. Just like the war demon chess that you all love to play, the chess players fight for the gains and losses of every chess piece, accumulating small victories to achieve a big victory. It might seem grand, but in reality, it is very obvious that you are crafty. It is easy for others to see through it and you end up in a disadvantageous position. As for me, I am a Go expert. My chess pieces are like the stars, I wait patiently and I don't fight for anything. What I do is a dragon. Go. Is there such a game in the world? Could it be a game that has disappeared in history? Marguerite once asked, but Lich Roland kept changing the topic. Right, a few days later, I intend to build a branch, the Supreme Court's Chrome City branch. Chrome City's City Lord HNG died under the hands of Marguerite's forbidden spell during the ambush a few days ago. His Chrome City naturally became ownerless and my intentions were clear. No wonder you want to expand. You intend to occupy Chrome City? Of course, it's fine if I don't level up after killing a boss. I can bear with it if I don't get any treasures. If I don't even occupy a territory or a few beauties, wouldn't that be too boring? I will just die. Alright, as usual, they ignored my crazy words. However, what I said was the truth of the mainstream view. However, personally, it is enough for me to live an interesting life. When I have nothing to do, I can tell a joke to myself. When I have something to do, I can make a fuss while working so that everyone can be happy. Isn't it tiring to fight and kill with a straight face every day? Cough, I seem to have strayed from my words. To be able to say it all in a single breath, your lung capacity must be astounding. Back to the main topic, I did intend to occupy Kalen City, but it wasn't for the so-called hegemony. On one hand, the power of law requires more faith. On the other hand, we need more bargaining chips. How do you intend to deal with the trouble of the Underground Alliance? Hearing my words, everyone fell silent. The Underground Alliance Army's counterattack on the surface is the common hope of most of the underground races. It has already become an established fact. The reason why we were able to defeat the alliance of the two autarchs is because they received the news that the seal was reinforced and rushed over. They might have even used teleportation magic. They only brought a small portion of their guards with them. Compared to their actual strength, it might not even be 11%. At the very least, we didn't see any powerful experts under them. Even if we are able to defeat the underground autarchs, can we defeat the Alliance army of tens of thousands of underground city lords? I have already learned my lesson. The torrent of history is unstoppable. I thought that I was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, but in the end, I was accidentally crushed by the wheels of the underground Alliance army. When the two autarchs aren't willing to give up and head back to summon their army, or just bring 300 to 400 underground city lords to fight us head-on, Sulphur Mountain City will probably become a fool trying to stop a chariot. Traces of history ruins. Let me give a suggestion. Actually, your way of thinking is too rigid. Just because you oppose them starting a war against the surface, do you really have to stand on the opposite side and fight with them? If you are always opposing them in diplomacy, sooner or later, you will be isolated. If you are strong enough, you can walk in at any time, so it doesn't matter. When An takes over, the enemies you all offended and the accumulated grudges will explode at the same time. Will she be able to handle it? Then what should we do? Marguerite has thought about it repeatedly, but there isn't any solution. We join them. Yes, join them. Right now, the top 4 are separated, with half on each side. They are still barely able to maintain a balance. But if another autarch were to appear, what do you think will happen? Adam's face is confused while Marguerite is deep in thought. Yes, we barely managed to defeat the two autarchs, so naturally, we have the right to become an autarch. Since there are only 2 autarchs here, it has already proved that they aren't united internally. Then, if we were to side with them. Yes, the leadership of the Allied army is a rare commodity. For some reason, I thought of my faraway hometown. There is a country, a rising power among the 5 old strong countries. As it grew, it kept swaying left and right to reap benefits. It even used the right to abstain from voting to disgust the other countries. In the end, it became the new autarch. Furthermore, I have a huge gift, a gift that can turn the delicate balance in front of us into an unsalvageable mess. What? What huge gift? I smirk weirdly and place the black wooden staff in my hands on the table. God equipment, Eternal Night Scepter. This is equivalent to the highest god equipment of the Undead Empire, Shiluor Kingdom. Handmade by Lord Yungye, it is definitely authentic. We are accepting the inspection of the goods. If there are any fakes, the penalty for every fake will be 10 times,